Driving me crazy just looking at it. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. Without you, driving me crazy just looking at it. Driving me crazy just looking at it. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezing, it's just you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezing, it's just you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. Give it to me like world without you. Just looking at it. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live without you.
Right, good afternoon, people. Hope everyone's good. Hope a few Spurs supporters in a better mood than me. What a crap night's sleep that was. Same Spurs, different day. But plenty of news going about. We're getting close to the season now. We got our games coming up. First game with Leicester, obviously everyone knows, and then we got some very tight games after that. And I suppose quite a few of us have just got different opinions on formations, what players he's actually gonna play. I think is pretty obvious what he's gonna do, because I think we've only got one player that can actually change. But that is when we will come to. Sitting here with me, my co-host, good friend of mine that I've known for a long time, who's going to be doing a lot more shows for us. Dave, how are we doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Similar to you. Didn't have a great night's sleep last night myself. Been busy all morning working and afternoon. So looking forward to having a break talking about Tottenham, which shouldn't be stressful at all.
No, hardly a fucking break, is it? But there we go. So, just to say hello to a couple of people on the side. Eugene, big up everyone. How you doing, mate? Hope everything's good for you. Anthony Clark, big up Dan. And the rest of it, you know where you can stick that one. But big up to you too, mate. And Tom, big up Dan and chat. Big up to you, mate. Jazz, how we doing? Morning all. Liam, big up Dan. Big up to you. Michael, how we doing, mate? Big up Dan. And I think he presumes to say you there, Dave. That's Michael. And Pete, what's he saying here? Hi all, 12 a.m. in Melbourne. Cool. Oh God, is that early morning now? Or is
Midnight.
Yeah, bloody hell. Imagine being on this at midnight. But good luck to you on that one. And Destiny 5, big up to you too, mate. Nick, are the cows home yet? That is the thing. That is the point on what I'm saying. You can talk about football and especially all the crap with Spurs until the bloody cows come home. That's why I put another one of my strange thumbnails on there, some would say. And Phil, Coy's fourth and Europa this season. Let's go. well, we'll talk about that one a bit later. I don't think the second one's impossible, but likely is, well, we shall see on that one. And Jazz, momentarily. And George, big up everyone. Big up to you too. And Renegade, afternoon mush. Dick, yeah, brother, how you doing? And Phil Coys, big up Dan and David in the chat. Ryan, what we saying here? And big up Dan and Dave in chat. Mike, he's just remembered your name there. Dave and saying hello. Scott, big up to all the Coys. Hope you're doing good, mate. Peter, yes. And Peter also saying, I'm working, Dan. Watching this and working. Pete, laugh out loud. Rumscully, if I read that right, Rumscully, big up HotspurHood, big up to you too, mate. George, smash the like, thank you. Hope all's good for you. James, how we doing, mate? Everything's good for you, hope so. And Virginity Taking Machine at Dan E. When did Lee Gunner convert into a Spurs fan? I don't think you'll ever see that one happen, mate. But if you're reverting me to Lee Gunner, do you know what? I take that as a compliment. At least he says it how it is. And LTL Cockerel, Jose, hope all's good for you, mate. Good afternoon, Dan and Dave. Right, with that, Dave. First one I'm going to go to was a thing I read this morning, and I was actually quite happy with it. I mean, there we go. Bloody hell, it must be after.
Hold up, the league. Sorry, the Lee Gunner comment. So on last night's stream with Savvy, you got it midway through the stream, and towards the end of the stream, I got it. So I don't know which one of us he's talking about there. So if you wouldn't mind, Virginia. There we go. Yeah, he's talking about me. I was talking about David's resemblance to Lee Gunner. I think that's one of the worst insults I've ever had. But anyway, I digress, Dan. Crack on.
Take it as a compliment, mate. Pretty boy, ain't you? Right. With what Vicario's admitted to, he's actually admitted that he has a set piece problem, and he's actually done it live, basically. This is a good thing for me, because to fix a problem, you've got to see the problem first. And you see the problem, you can then go to fixing the problem. When you just ignore the problem, like a lot of people do at Spurs and just want to talk about what's good and not what's bad, then you don't fix problems. And the fact that he's actually admitted, Dave, that he's actually got a problem with set pieces and that he's actually been practicing on it a hell of a lot, that's a good thing on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing. As you say, you can't fix a problem until you acknowledge it exists, and that carries a lot of weight in a lot of things in life, not just football, right? So yeah, I agree with you. It's good acknowledged it. It's weird because actually set piece wise we were really good defensively, and then Man City numbered us, and that was kind of the blueprint then for the rest of the team. So I don't know if that was, I mean, it probably was clever by Pep that he spotted a weakness that hadn't actually been exposed before, because obviously he was okay on set pieces up until that game. But yeah, so what we've discussed this before, he needs to be braver, but also that protection in front of him from the defenders needs to be better as well. It's not just a Vicario issue. That's a whole Spurs team defending a corner or free kick issue. So I won't put all the blame to Vicario, but obviously he takes a big chunk of it as the goalkeeper. I used to be a goalkeeper back in the day. And you've got
done that as well.
The player. It's your perfect chance to sit there and whack a player, kick a player and get away with it. So he needs to take advantage of that. Make it a 6-yard box that no striker wants to go into. And that's what he needs to do. And as I say, the defence in front of him need to do better at clearing the ball as well and protecting the runs. But yeah, it's good that he's acknowledged it.
Well, the thing I always found weird with Vicario when it came to that bit was basically he's very, very vocal when everything's out of the box. Very vocal. But then as soon as it comes into the box on the set piece, he seems to shut up and he seems to melt a bit, doesn't he? I mean, the one I keep relating to was that game against Arsenal with Ben White, where Ben White basically might as well have been pinching him on his arse, and he just basically flattered him away. I mean, if that would have been someone like Pickford, who I used an example, he'd have had him up by the throat and thrown him across and get the fuck out of my face, basically. And the goalkeeper can get away with that, especially over here. So it's definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Ben White is probably the least intimidating professional footballer that's ever played in the Premier League, isn't he? I mean, you'd blow on him and he'd fall over.
And the thing was,
I'll be very polite how I word that, by the way, Daniel.
And he should be fighting back, but it's like you say, whether the manager's noticed it or not, well, I'd expect the manager to bloody notice it. But even as just a player, a defender, or even a midfielder, if you're in the box, you see your goalkeeper getting muscled up a bit. First thing I would have always done is go and just barge the player out of the way or stand in between. I don't think it's that hard to fix as such, because that's the main bit. I think he has the problem on the set pieces, the corners more than the free kicks, is where he just does not take control of that 6-yard box at all, does he?
No, it doesn't. And it was funny, actually, because when Dragusin came into the side, one of the first things he'd done at the set pieces was that I can't remember who he was playing, but he was dragging the striker away from Vicario. But obviously he hadn't played for all of the second half of the season, did he? Because he's up against Romero, and Romero's the other person that would do that. But we do need more players with that attitude. But I think that's the underbelly of Spurs that's been probably the last, 20 years or so, right? We've always been a little bit of a soft touch when it comes to things like this. We've not had that nasty side in us. And I think that's just the little tricks of the trade that we've got to be better at. Not just there, but across the pitch. But I think it highlights it on the set pieces that we're a little bit lightweight, we're a bit too nice. No, being absolute. No, we can't swear. It's a bit too early for swearing, isn't it? But, a bit more nasty.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. And with what you said there, I'll go back to someone we've done shows with, I do quite a few with, Adrian. I hope everything's good for you, mate. He's always one of the first ones to pick a point on the fact that Spurs need more aggression. We need more balls in that team. We need more front in it, and that we haven't got enough aggressive players. And I make him 100% right. He says it nearly every show that I see him go on or I've been on with him. It's one thing that he sticks to his heart with, and it is very true. We really haven't got much aggression in that team. I mean, you've got Romero. Vicario's aggressive when everyone's out the box with his mouth, but that's about it. But I'd say one of the only aggressive players that I can truly say we've got is Romero, now that Højbjerg's not here, because Højbjerg, again, not the best player, but he was aggressive. Apart from that,
I think Bentancur's got a little bit of it. He's a bit slyer with it, but he has got that in him, I think.
You mean he's more that one that they'll wind up with a little dig or something, basically?
Yeah, he'll pinch someone's nipple in the box when the ref's not looking, rather than go through them. But, little things like that, Dan, it's such a tough league. It's not like the other leagues across Europe where there's a few good teams and the rest of them are just cannon fodder. In our league, every single team is pretty decent, yeah? I know you've obviously got a couple that are above everyone else, but generally speaking, each game's an absolute battle. And that difference between 1 point and 0 points, or 1 point and 3 points, could come down to that one moment in the game. I mean, go back to the Man City FA Cup game. It was quite a level game. I know Man City had more of the ball, but it came down to a set piece at the end of the day where we just switched off briefly and we were out the cup. So that's where we just got to be that bit sharper. And I think Ange touches on that a bit. The players need to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more proactive in their thoughts around this as well. But yeah, it's good that he's acknowledged it, and hopefully we do see an improvement. I've touched on it before with Ange. His second season statistics, his set piece defending, do tend to get better, so I'm expecting an improvement this season. But the proof will be in the pudding, right? We'll see that in the first few games. And to be honest with you, I know pre-season, you can't read too much into it, because, an example was the Aston Villa one where they was absolutely flying under Steven Gerrard, then couldn't win a game in the Premier League, right?
And would have got relegated if he'd have stayed, didn't it?
Yeah, but the Bayern Munich goals they got against us, the defending, and I know you've done a piece on this, I think with Stel a few days back. It was absolutely chaos in terms of our defending set pieces there. So it doesn't fill me.
They had 2 or 3 on our back post, didn't they? While we was just totally naked, basically. It was just 2 or 3 players they had to open on that back post, for God's sake.
Yeah, the players need to take ownership of that. I know your manager tells you where to roughly stand, but you've got to sit there and read a situation in the pitch and take authority and, sit there and see a player's unmarked, go mark him. Or if you are a bit meant to be zonal, just go to a slightly different zone so you're closer to that player, be proactive. Take the bollocking from your manager when you get in for not doing what he tells you to, and have the argument with him. Well, at the end of the day, I stopped a goal going in, so who's right in that argument? I don't know. Do you remember the Neil Warnock when he was at Sheffield United and had the little documentary? And he had a big, massive row with Chris Morgan. You remember him? Nasty centre back, proper old school centre half. And they had a big row about a goal going in from a set piece. I think it was a long throw in actually. And Chris Morgan was arguing with him. You told me to pick up that player at set pieces. And it was another player that scored. And Neil Warnock turned around to him and said, just because I told you to park that player, you should see that player is more dangerous and unmarked, so go and mark him. even though I've told you to mark a different. Exactly, and that's where players, I think these days, they're too mollycoddled. You know, they sit there and go, well, the manager tells me to do this, I'll just be a robot and do what the manager tells me to do. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine in most instances, but every now and again there's going to be a situation on that pitch where you need to take ownership of it. You need to sit there and see the bigger picture and go, okay, there's a problem there, I'm going to fix that problem before we concede a goal. You know, and that's just game intelligence, and I think, again, that's something we've lacked over the last couple of decades generally as a squad.
No, but what you said there, do you know what? I can go with pretty much everything you said there. I mean, I'm a big believer in what I see, and I would still say most of the problem is the actual tactics and what the players get told to do. But you're getting paid 100 grand, 50 grand, 300 grand, whatever it is a week. You do expect some of these players to have a bit more common sense, don't you? And we don't see many in our team with that. I mean, Romero is definitely one, again, who you can relate to as a bit of a, do you know what, bollocks, I'll go and do what I've got to do. Whereas there's not many other players that really do that. Again, I think the majority of the problem, high majority of the problem, is the tactics. But you're also 100% right in what you're saying. I mean, come on, boys, like, just, you know, use your brain a little bit, have some common sense. Because some of the stuff, it is just common sense. It is that simple. But that's also with some of the stuff the manager does as well. But you're right, and quite a few people say it as well, that the players need to take some shit for this as well. But again, I do see the tactics as a massive problem. Only time will tell how much Ange has adapted, if he has. But the friendlies just don't state that he's adapted in any means or manner. So in that aspect, I do believe we have a fun season to come on. And when we go to the formations later, we'll be able to basically speak about what we believe are some of the problems that need sorting out. And it's basically two little problems for me, but we'll come to that. Right, just say hello to a couple more on the side. Rinkety, what are you saying? Big up, boys. Do you guys think Joe and Bakayoko, will go to Spurs? PSV want 40 million. I'll go to you on that, Dave. What do you reckon on that one? Bakayoko, PSV?
Well, out of all the names I was writing down before the show, he wasn't one that was necessarily on my radar. So I was just doing a quick Google search there because I can't say that I've actually heard of the fella. I'll have to pass that one back to you, Dan.
Okay, I know he plays on the wing at PSV. I think I've only seen him play once or twice.
Yes. So in terms of the wingers, I just picked a couple that the wingers, we kind of have targets that we kind of been looking at, right? And I just put those down on my targets, and also we're quite packed in that area, so I don't think it's going to be a priority for us. But yeah, so I mean, if you know more about him, Dan, then feel free to talk. But I can't sit there and pretend I do know about him, so I'll just be waffling.
I can't really say I know much about him either. I've only seen him play, I think, twice. Obviously, you hear the words about it, but I don't really know. I can't vouch much for him or against him, so I can't really answer the question too tough. I think I'm in the same way as you in that one. I can't really answer it. I don't know enough about him. And Mark's saying, yeah, no more of this zonal marking nonsense anymore, please, mate. I totally agree with you. Adrian, hope everything's good, mate. What are you saying here? We have 6 first-team coaches to our defensive woes. Matty Wells, Ryan Mason, Milo, I ain't even going to try and pronounce that one or the second one, Nick, Sergio, and goalkeeping coach Rob Birch. Yeah, it definitely doesn't look good in our coaching side in that aspect. And yes, we go back to the set pieces again. We need that set piece coach desperately, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, so Matty Wells, right? I've actually been aware of him as a coach since back in the day I was coaching. I actually took quite a few of my drills from his sessions, but his sessions were more designed for early learning of football, or the more basic side of, obviously, like I was managing a team at the very bottom level, right? So I was getting him to do more basic stuff. So it doesn't correlate for me, him being a good coach for that level. And then he's made, fair play to him, by the way, making his way all the way up to be a Premier League coach with the first team. But I know he's someone that has dedicated the last couple of decades of his life to coaching. So I think bona fide, he is a good coach from a technical sense. The others, though, I don't know, I think it's Spanish, but the other names on there, they're all kind of former players and recent coaches. They're not vastly experienced coaches, right? They've recently retired, like even Rob Birch, right? He's a former youth goalkeeper at Tottenham, wasn't he? So it does worry me that our coaching staff is a little bit lacking. You know, you look at Mourinho back in his day. I know he brought in the young assistant manager, but he used to have experienced coaches around him. Conte obviously had his coaching staff around him. And I know we touched on this with Postecoglou before, that he likes to challenge himself by bringing in new coaches for each team. But I still think
make it harder.
I still think there needs to be a bit of meeting in the middle with that, Frange, and saying, look, okay, get in a couple of fresh coaches each year. I don't mind that, but you should have one or two right-hand men that you can go to who know Ange, know how he's thinking, and sit there and can go, right, Ange, you're doing a bit wrong there. You need to change it up. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. If you're sitting there saying that's a great coaching staff, you'd have a very hard job arguing your case on that. It's much easier to argue, I think, as an inexperienced coaching staff. As I say, with the exception of Matt Wells, who, again, he's more of a technique coach, more of a basic session coach. It does... Yeah, I mean, we fixed our set piece problem, didn't we, under Conte? We got a dedicated one in, and what happened? Our set piece going forward. Yeah, I'm guessing that was part of the Conte going, right? It was probably part of the package, but it surprises me that we hired someone to do a job to fix a problem. We fixed that problem to a decent level, and then we get rid of that person, and our set piece problems return. You know, it's going back to that rocket science argument, Dan. You know, you don't need to be a professional footballer to acknowledge this, or be involved in a professional game to acknowledge this. It's quite a basic one. And this level, as we go back, this game's about small margins and set pieces. I think there's something like 30% of the goals. I mean, that's a figure I'm thinking off the top of my head. It's around about a third of the goals are set pieces, aren't they?
By the end of the season, I think we conceded. I think we were like something like 16th or 17th in conceding set piece goals. So again, going back to that, it's definitely one we need to change. And just with a question of Sammy here,
and that was after going up for the Man City game without conceding one.
That's where it all changed.
So it shows you how bad we were in that second half.
He sussed him out. And Divine, Phillips, Hall, Donley might be going on loan. I'm pretty sure they all will, and I think you'll see a couple of others go with it as well. How many are allowed to loan? Is it 7 or 8? As far as I know, I think it's more than 8, isn't it?
I think the limit is more coming in. Although I got tripped up on last night's stream by the age on the loans. I thought it was as soon as you're a professional, you can go out on loan. But I was educated on the stream that it's actually, you can be a professional, but you need to be 18 still. And I think the loan rules are more loaning in, like limits of how many players you loan in. And I don't think we can loan more than certain amounts of specific clubs. Again, I don't think there's too many on the outgoing loan side of things. I mean, you only have to look at Chelsea, right? The amount of players they've got and always out on loan. So I don't know. Let me have a little look in the background on that. I'll get back to
they loan out a hell of a lot usually. I mean, I know there's a very set amount on what you can loan in as such, but I think there's also, I think the main key is how many you can loan from your league or two teams in your league. I think that's one of the issues on it. Just out a question here from Rob. Hi, Dan and Dave. Do you think Ange will be managing at Spurs in Christmas if the results and tactics don't change? No, I don't. Simple answer is that. If they do not change and he does not adapt to something, or we just don't get a massive amount of luck, I can see him easily gone by Christmas, because I think one of the biggest problems we're going to have here is we are not going to have those 10 games. We are not going to have the 10 games that we started last season and got, what was it? Was it 26, 28 points out of it? Something like that, give or take a point. And we're not going to have that. And if he hasn't adapted in any means, basically, everyone already knows how to do it. And it wouldn't even surprise me if we went the first 10 games, won 4, lost 4, and drew 2. And if it carries on like that, and we end up being mid-table or end up being about 7th, and if we're more than, I'd say, 6 points away from a top 4, and it's looking like we're not going to do it, I think Levy will have him out. Why? People say this process and everything, but I can only go by what I've seen in history, and that's 24 coming on 25 years of history where a manager is usually out by that time.
Yeah. In terms of the loan rules, it looks like there's 6 first-team players maximum allowed out, but under 21s and club-trained players are exempt. So
that's why you wait to Chelsea loan out. shitloads.
Yeah, and I think Alfie Devine is technically club trained now, even though we purchased him from Wigan. I think he's been there 3 years at the age of under 18, so I think he's technically club trained. But yeah, that's the answer. I didn't know that until I just looked it up. But yeah, 6 first-team players maximum, but club trained players and under 21s are exempt. But what's the question you was asking there, Dan? Sorry. Will Ange be managing Spurs?
What Rob's asking here, will he be here in Christmas if the results and the tactics don't change? I don't think he will be if nothing changes.
Football's a very fickle game, so I think I can't remember who made the great point. I think it might be Nigel on last night's Savage stream where he said he'll probably win 5, lose 5 in his first 10, but it depends in what sequence they come. If he loses his first 5, he could be in danger, right? I personally, I think he will be there. I mean, that's actually the first season in a good few seasons where we actually had the same manager at the end of the season that we had at the start of the season. So I have to take this with a pinch of salt. I'm about to say, I think he will be there at the end of the season, let alone Christmas. That's my personal gut feeling. But I am very aware that Spurs in recent years haven't got to the end of the season with the same manager in charge. That being said, I think Ange will overperform and get us to 5th again.
Yeah.
5th and 6th, give or take. Yeah,
we'll come to that one. We'll come to that one close.
Yeah.
We actually end up in that. Just going back to the other bit of news out there. I mean, just a couple of quick things I've written down and watching whatever. Basically, we all know Royale's gone, Chicken Royale. How long that took to do, God Almighty! But it's done. He's gone. We can all praise on that one. I mean, the other stuff out there. I mean, Basuma for me needs a slap in the face. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play for a while. I mean, what dickhead goes, even if it is only laughing gas, which is illegal, goes and does that and then records it and then puts it
I bet Ange wasn't laughing, was he?
No. Cheesy.
I can imagine. Yeah. It's all right. I didn't do the moot point earlier, so I had to get one of them in. I can imagine Ange kind of went into him. I get the impression, given Ange's recent outbursts on the side of the pitch with the players, where he isn't scared to have a go at them in public. So I reckon he has got a big telling off in the background. But I also think Ange is someone that would tell him off and then move on quickly. I don't think he'll hold that against Basuma as long as Basuma's playing well in training, improving himself. But I think there is a player in Basuma. We've touched on it before. It's the consistency. It's the consistency that's an issue with him. He sometimes, I've noticed with him. Yeah, honestly, there is a good DM in there if he refines his game slightly.
He's a box to box.
Yeah, that's what he was signed for, though, and that is technically his best position. I know he's probably more suited to being box to box in terms of his athleticism, but actually he was signed for the DM role. And if you do a Google search for the top 10 DMs in world football, his name comes up at 10th, believe it or not. I done that yesterday, believe it or not, and that was at the start of June as well. It wasn't even last season.
I mean,
but anyway, I'll take that with a pinch of salt.
And used him as more of a box to box. Yes, he came back and covered now and again, but he was more pressing forward. Defending is not his stronger point. He's better at getting that ball, going forward a couple of steps, and then getting the short ball to someone and taking it from there. He's not an out and out DM, and we both know Ange don't play with a number 6.
No, I know, but he's got it for one. He's got all of the attributes to play in Ange's role in that hybrid 6-8. We have 2 of them in there, don't we? And he's got all the attributes to do that. And he showed last season, and again, a lot of our players do this, where they're good for a couple of games and then bad for a couple of games, right? That's not the sign of a very good player in consistency, right? But in the games he was good, he showed that he can do the role, and that was in that little run where we did have that 10 games playing our best football. But I find with Basuma, he'll have a little moment in the game where he tries something casual, like a little flick around the corner, or a bit of a lazy pass with a little bit of, a little bit of swagger about it, rather than just put his foot through the ball and go, there's a pass. He'll try and do something a little bit clever. And then as soon as that mistake happens, that's it for the game. His mind's frazzled. He tries making up for it by doing something even more extravagant, and therefore puts our side under more stress and strain, right? If he just keeps it simple, thinks, what is my job? My job's to win that football, hold my positional shape, and give that football to the better players in the squad. If he has that mindset through the season, he can be a real good asset for us. But it's a lot of ifs. And again, that's what we could say about
It
a lot of
always
our
is.
players.
It always is.
Yeah,
It's buts and
I hope
maybes.
Ange gave him a metaphorical slap round the face and said, "Sort yourself out, Biss," and he
Get
gets
your act together.
his head in gear. Yeah, that's what I hope.
You'd hope so. So, Simply Stu, I think he's asking a question here. Can I ask a serious question? I suppose you can, but we are Spurs supporters. You have Romero, VDV, Porro, and Udogie. That is a serious back four, yet you concede the amount of goals you do. Second question is why the Spurs fan base is so divided. And that one there, I think, is a very good question at the end. For me, the answer for the first one is quite plain Jane and simple, mate. It's the tactics. Simple as that. It is purely down to the tactics on why we concede so many goals, whether it's set pieces or the tactics as a whole. When you've got both your wing backs going forward at the same time and inverting, and you've got both your centre backs basically sitting on the halfway line, as all it takes is a ball down the wings or down the middle, like it did nearly every game, and we are absolutely foobarred. And I think that one is that. When it comes to the other question, Spurs fan base so divided, I'd say it's the most divided fan base I've come across, without a doubt. But the thing is, with our fan base, it's not just divided in two halves. It's divided in about 5 different parts as such. You got your patch there, and there. We are so divided in about 5 different little armies, basically. You got Ange in, Ange out, you Levy in, Levy out, Ange. We can never seem to agree on nothing. And I think
Sounds like the Okie Dokie song, that, Dan.
It basically is, isn't it? That is Spurs supporters all over. And the other problem is, I think, with the divided, is the players we buy. I mean, when we go and sign people like Timo Werner and Johnson, I mean, Timo Werner shouldn't even be split down the side or whatever. That should be 99.9% of Spurs supporters saying, what are we doing buying this crap? Or even renting him for the second season. But you've always got the over negative ones, you've got the over positive ones, and then you've got the other ones who are, no, if Ange wants him, he's going to be bollocks, mate. Werner is crap, just accept it. But then that's my opinion. I mean, how do you answer these ones?
What about Werner specifically?
Well, about the questions.
Yeah, so about Werner specifically, you hit the nail on the head with this one. He's a very poor man's son. He's does the right things a lot of the time, but he's got absolutely no end product. But anyway, yeah. So in terms of his question about the back 4 and 5, I know a few people have touched on this, that we only conceded a couple less goals with a so-called better defence than we did under Conte, who had a crapper defence. And it does come down to the tactics, a lot of it, because Conte started off a bit like an old school manager, and how it used to be was we'll start off building a platform at the back, be hard to beat, and then we'll build on our attacking going forward. Whereas Ange is very much, my best method of defending is by attacking, having a ball in the opposition's half. If the ball's in the opposition's half, they can't score. And I think that works a lot when you've got the good players, confident players to do that. It doesn't work so well in a Tottenham team that's got a lot of inconsistent players and a lack in quality in certain areas. So I don't think it's entirely the tactics, but if you ask me, is it the tactics or the players? It's slightly more the tactics than it is the players at this point, because there is still that school of thought, and I agree with this, is that just because you want to play your way, and just because you've got your style, you've got to also be adaptive to the players you've got in your squad. There's no point sort of playing a high line if you've got a slow pedestrian defence, right? It's my quick sort of thought of an example of how that wouldn't work. And so I think the goals were not because the defenders are bad. I think the goals were a mixture of the tactics not being entirely suited to this set of players, but also there was a hell of a lot individual mistakes. I can't remember the number, Dan, but we covered it on a previous show, the amount of individual mistakes that led to goals as well. That's not on Ange, the individual mistakes. Okay, so I think it was about a third mistakes and about 2/3 of the goals were probably tactical reasons.
And what do you think about the divided side? Why are we so divided as a fan base?
Because of our board and our chairman. I think that stems down. So there's I don't want to touch on this debate because it's been going on for ages. But that is the reason there's divide in this team, because there's divide with our structure at the top. There's always this lack of clarity and sort of working together, collaboration within the squad. You know, we keep getting different managers who want different players. So we've got players in that squad that were built, purchased for other managers, and we're buying players now for the future, even though our manager might not be here in the future. There's not been that joined up thinking. So Pep Guardiola, for example, let's look at the best. And not only just Pep, also Man City, because, you know, you've got Man City and Chelsea, two clubs that have basically been brought their success, but they've done it in two completely different models. Man City have built up the infrastructure around that club, from the youth team, from the area around Manchester, but also the directors of football. It's Pep's choice who that man is. So when he sits there and works out who these signings are, these Julian Alvarez's of the world, they don't cost a lot of money, Dan, because they're sitting there saying 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, he's going to come into my squad and fit into my system here. You know, so they can sell a player now, and it doesn't matter because they've got 2 or 3 youth players coming through. And when I say youth players, they could either be developed in the academy or they've been signed from other clubs at a younger age. And they'll come in and fit the system that Man City play, because Pep has got his DNA running through that club, like up and down. Whereas us, we haven't got that DNA. We've got a chairman who thinks it's done this way, and he thinks he can just buy and sell, well, hire and fire managers, and that's that. But no, there needs to be more. I'm trying to think of the word, more fluidity between that structure. Yeah. And we've been trying to find it for ages, but that's why there is a divide in this team, because there's a big part no one wants Levy in. There's a big part of our fan base that think he's doing a good job, and he has done a good job in many areas. But the football side of things, I don't think you can sit there and deny that he's done a lot of bad things, and he's caused a lot of fractures within that development of a free and that's why we've got this mismatched squad where we've got a lot of good players maybe, but they don't quite fit the system. Or, you know, we've got 3 left wingers, but we've only got 1 right back, 1 left back. You know, it's kind of that I'm trying to think.
There's no coordination, is there, basically?
Yeah.
If that's the right way to put it. And there really isn't. But I agree with what you're saying. That's basically why we are so divided, isn't it?
Yeah. But you even look at, like, so I use Man City as the example, right? That's the best. But even if you look at the Brightons of the world, okay, for the last 10 years or so, they have been building with a structure in place that goes from top to bottom. Every single manager they hire has to come in and fit that philosophy of the club. Every single player they purchase has to fit that philosophy of the club. It's not just designed for a manager's style. It's the philosophy of the club. It's an identity of the club. And they've had success from that. Another one's Brentford as well, right? That's a good example. So it's not just at the higher level you can do that. You can do that lower down. And Tottenham is somewhere in between the two, right? We're below Man City, but we're above Brighton. We're above Brentford. So we should be able to do a lot of what they do. Yeah, it should. But yeah, that's why there's divide in the team anyway, to answer that question. Divide in a fan base, sorry.
Yeah, without a doubt. Right, just 2 quick questions here, 2 easy answers. So Angus is asking, in your opinions, who do you think will be player of the year this season in the Prem? For me, it's one of 2. It's either Salah or Rodri. I think this is going to be Salah's last season at Liverpool, and I think he's going to let everybody know it. But then Rodri is just that much of a good player. He could quite easily get player of the season. But then if Haaland goes and bangs in 50 goals again, you could easily see him being player of the season. But for me, it's going to be Salah or Rodri. You, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm guessing with the Arsenal shirt, it's more of a general Premier League one. It's a tough one. I mean, I think Rodri, like, you look at that great Man City squad, and to be fair to him, like, a lot of their players are good players, but it's more about the 11 out there. You know, you could sit there and take a couple out and bring a couple more in. They'd still play as well. But I think Rodri is that knit that he kind of glues them all together. Yeah. So I think, but he's not the most glamorous either. So, you know, a lot of the time, player of the year is usually the one who scored the most goals, isn't it? But yeah, I'd say Rodri. I'd say Rodri again. And for us, I reckon it's going to be Brennan Johnson. No, not a joke. To be honest with you, it will probably be one of our back 2, Van der Ven, Romero, or our goalkeeper Vicario, because I think that we touched on it last night. They'll do so much work in this season to come, and they'll get highlighted because they're doing so much work. They'll be like, oh, they're having a good season. You don't want your centre back and your goalkeeper to have a great season. You want them to do their job well, but you don't want them having loads of work.
I think Sava smashed the nail on the head perfect yesterday when we pretty much spoke about this yesterday of like who's our best player. And majority of people, obviously Son pops up in there, but we know he's starting to slip. That is just purely down to age. It is what it is. But basically everyone was either VDV or Romero. And there are two best players, yet we concede 61 bloody goals. How can your two defenders be your best two players and concede 61 goals? To me, there's no logic in it. But I can totally understand why. If I'm going to go for player for us of the season, I think Romero is going to absolutely smash it this season. Why? Because at the end of the season, he is going Real Madrid. And I think he's going to make sure that happens. That's why I personally think Romero is going to be player of the season. I think he's going to have a very good season. Even if we concede 60 goals again, you're going to see he's really going to get stuck in this year. I think he's going to calm down again a bit. He's going to get a red card or two. It's Romero. It happens. But I think he's really going to give it his all this season because he wants that move to Real Madrid. I mean, who wouldn't? So, yeah, I'm going to go with you. It's one of the defenders, but for me, it's Romero. Right, other point I want to get to on here is I keep seeing a lot of this Richarlison. Now, there's already rumours that we've had offers for him, accepted it, and turned it down. But reading a couple of things, and what's his name? Paul Robinson was the one who said it on there definitely, is that he thinks Richarlison is going to be gone by August the 30th. And we're basically putting it on him that you ain't going to get much first team football and we pretty much want you out. I mean, what do you think the chances of that happening, us getting rid of Richarlison? Because I must admit, I'd quite like to see him go as well.
Yeah, we touched on it last night, didn't we? I got a feeling spending 65 on Solanke was because we feel we're going to get all of that back or most of it back for Richarlison. And there is no smoke without fire. I mean, this rumour's been going since last season was going on still. It wasn't even at the end of the season this started. This rumour's been going on for ages. And I think I get the impression Richarlison doesn't want to go rather than the club don't want him to go. I think the club are actively pushing him to Saudi.
Yeah.
To get that money, and I think Richarlison turned around and said, obviously they got the he wants to keep in the Brazil squad, and he's scared that if he goes to Saudi, he won't get in the Brazil squad. And I understand that. You know what? I've got a lot of respect for that because he's actually putting his football before his money. I know he makes a shed load of money anyway, but he could make triple, quadruple what he makes at Spurs, right? And we've seen some players sort of sacrifice. You know, remember Oscar going to China all them years ago when he was in his prime? It's like he's really doing it for money. So I got a bit of credit for Richarlison, and I like Richarlison's attitude. You know, I think someone put it in the comments when we was talking about that little bit of nastiness, and I like the fact that he's got that in him. He wants to win, even if it's a five-a-side game. You can tell he wants to win. He just lacks the quality to be that top four striker.
He's another player we've got with a bit of aggression, isn't he? I didn't think of him. Yeah. He has. When he came on against that game against Arsenal, he really pissed off a couple of their players, didn't he?
Yeah, and I like that about him, and there's a lot of things I do like about him, but ultimately, if I take my heart out of it and think, oh, just because I like him as a character, he's not a good enough footballer for what we need to do. So if we can get rid of him for around 50, I think that's a great bit of business for us because we've had him a couple of seasons for a £10 million loss, but that's actually not too bad over a couple of seasons. And I think that recoups the Solanke money, which then gives us a chance to get another striker in. My fear is what strikers are out there that's in our ballpark. You know, like I don't think there's many. There's a few I like, but whether we'll go for them, I don't know. So that's my other concern is it's okay getting rid of him, but who's the replacement going to be? We'll probably end up with Sonny as a striker again. And I like Sonny and he's a great finisher, but he can't play 38 games in a Premier League season against certain defences. He'll go missing. But yeah,
well, it does. It's like I've said it on a couple of them as well. There was actually certain games, and the Arsenal game being one of them, where I would have actually preferred Richarlison starting in the middle. And I don't rate Richarlison at all, but I think there's certain things that Richarlison can pull off better in a box being sandwiched up than Son. Son just gets knocked about too easy. And it's not
but it's
player. We're all different, and strength is not one of Son's strong points, is it?
No, and we got Solanke, who's 6'2", good in the air. So actually, we got that covered, maybe. And don't forget, Ange likes his wingers to put low crosses in, not high crosses in. So actually, we just need someone to get on the end of them. And there's a good shout in there from Rodney Trott. Actually, it did skip my mind because actually he is in our price range, and that's that Jonathan David. And I think it was Brian when he was on show a good few months ago.
Yeah, that's right. No, Brian was one who speaks about him very highly and wants him, and he's meant to be.
Yeah, and he could also play all across all three positions as well, which is another tick in the Ange box, in the fact that he doesn't just have to play out and out up front. He can play on either flank, because technically we don't play with wingers, Dan, do we? We play with wide forwards.
Inverted forwards, basically, isn't it? Inside forwards.
No, we play wide forwards, inside forwards and inverted fullbacks. Yeah.
I mean, quick question here we got here off Jay. Dan, could Locatelli be that number 6 for us? I'll give you 2 answers.
I'll let you answer that.
No, he couldn't, because we don't play with a 6. But I think he's a brilliant player. I mean, he's past 3 seasons at Juventus. He's been consistent. He hasn't been injury prone, whatever. His main position is a DM, but also plays a box-to-box. And I think he's significantly better than anything we've got. And Juventus need to get some money in, same as a lot of the Italian teams. That's why they're so desperate to get rid of Chiesa as well. I mean, it's their wages. I mean, Chiesa is another one who I would not say no to at Spurs, because I think he's tenfold better than what we got already. And even if we say he's still got his injury, like a bit injury prone, last season, 30 games, his first proper season in about 3 seasons due to his ACL injury. But he's still, even if we see him for 25 games, he's still 10 times better than what we've already got. So what do you think on Locatelli?
I forget that it's just me and you. I thought you was asking someone else that. Then it's just me and you, isn't it? As I said, as soon as the name comes up, I'll let you answer that one. You've got more knowledge of him than me. But I think you've actually covered that there. We don't play with that system. But on the same token, it wouldn't be a bad signing in there. I do think we need a little bit more experience and quality in that midfield, a bit of an older head. I think it's a very young central midfield. So yeah, I do think we need to improve in that area. Whether Locatelli is the answer or not, he probably fits the bill in terms of money, but does he fit the bill in terms of his age and sell on?
Well, he's only about, if I remember right, he's only about 26, 25, 26. He's not old.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm probably thinking of the other one you said, Paredes. The other one as well, it's on a free, but he's probably out of our range.
Him yesterday from Roma.
Yeah.
He's 30.
The other one that's probably out of our range is that Adrian Rabiot, isn't it? He's on a free transfer. He's only 29.
But the money he's going to want is stupid.
Yeah, so there's an argument between that, because you don't pay a transfer fee, you can give higher wages, but then you've got the other argument, if you're giving him higher wages, players in the squad currently will want higher wages as well to match it, right? So I get that, but what I'm saying is that's the kind of profile player that I think we're missing in that centre midfield, is an experienced campaigner that's still got the legs to get about, but we're only buying him for a couple of seasons to come in and do a job, a bit probably to replace Højbjerg, right? Who probably was that experienced international midfielder. Although I don't think he'd done a great job towards the end of his Spurs career, but just someone that's got that experience in there to sit there, even every day at training, right? Getting those youngsters, improving their game, getting them up. Who's Gray going to look around at? Maybe Bentancur, but there's not really many central midfield. Yeah, maybe.
No.
I like Bentancur, you know I do, but he's
a good player.
Basuma.
But since that ACL, I don't think we're ever going to see the same off him that he did. I mean, when he was at Juventus, he was a good player, consistent, 4 years, 3 years, 4 years doing the DM role there, sort of like deep line playmaker at the same time.
Yeah,
and he is a very good player. I think he
gets in
overrated,
the French
but I also think he gets underrated. But Bentancur,
I don't think it's amazing, but Rabiot gets in the French national team. And have you seen the quality of players that's available to that squad? He does a good job.
He already turned us down once before, wasn't it, when we went for him before?
Yeah.
And he blatantly said Spurs are not good enough. But then if anyone's got the ump with that, then they can also have the ump with Maddison as well, when he gave us that bit of stick, doesn't he? Yeah. So I'm going to answer a quick question.
You can tell Rabiot knows his football then.
There we go. Even though this is a Spurs one, I'll still answer a question here, and I presume this is about Arsenal, since it's off Angus. Do you think if we sign a world class, do you think we can win the league, or Man City is still too strong? I think if Arsenal go and sign a world class striker, they're definitely up there for it. But yeah, I don't think they've still got the mentality to do it. And I just think City are just too bloody good. Quick answer with that one.
I gave my answer in the form of an object. No, to be fair, actually, jokes aside, I do think if they get a top striker, then they are as close as they can possibly be to winning that title.
They're a very good team.
Then you got to start asking questions. So I, taking my Tottenham hat off, that Arsenal have built a good squad over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And again, it goes back to that philosophy. There's that joint thinking between leadership at the top of the club, the management, and then the players coming in suit that. So it's an example of where we should have been, but we haven't been. We missed the boat with Pochettino, I thought. But yeah, I still think Man City, and also I think it's Guardiola's last season, by the way. Just as a curveball to this, I think he's going to go
possibly
out with 5 in a row.
He's going to go international.
I think he needs a break. This is the longest he's ever been at a club, by the way, in terms of manager. But I think once he wants to get that 5, and then that will be him leaving with his legacy in place, intact. No reputation harmed. He won't want to lose a title and then go. And I think he's thinking, do I have another rebuild in me? Do I fancy another challenge? I think he does. So I think Man City still win the league. And that's not a slight on Arsenal. I just think Man City will win the league because they're the best team in the league. But yeah, if Arsenal get a top striker, then they're as close to Man City as they will ever be. And fair play to them. They've built that over the last 4 or 5 seasons. You can't knock good success, even though they're our rivals. But
at the end of the day, the way I look at it, Dave, and I don't want to talk about them too much because it makes me feel physically sick. But
yeah, I'm starting to sweat.
It's the same as a player. If you're good, you're good. You're bad, you're bad. And no matter how much we don't like it or whatever, same as they didn't like it 5 years ago, they've got a scary team now. And it's actually becoming a scary team, not just a scary first 11. But hopefully, the best of wishes I will give them is break a leg or 2. But, nothing nasty meant by it.
I hope they get really, really close, lose it on the final game of the season. They go into the final game, 2 points clear, got an easy game at home. I don't know who they got. Man City go and win their last game. Arsenal lose a game they should win and then lose a title on the last day. That's what I'd like to see. But not realistically, in the ideal world, I'd like to see Tottenham challenging for the title in that last game. Realistically, it's not going to happen. But, what I want is different to what I think will happen, right?
Quick question here. What do you think about Billy Gilmore, Brighton to Spurs? I can't say I know that much about the player.
He's a bit like
player for you, but not.
He's a better Harry Winks. He's a better Harry Winks. That's what he is. He's a small, diminutive little link up, get the ball off the defence, give it to the midfield. He's a bit more progressive than Harry Winks. He'll play it through a bit more direct, but he's not terrific. He does a good job in a good Brighton team, but he's one of them. I think Brighton are a team that play well because of the sums of all the parts. I don't think they're a team of individuals, and I think he would struggle going to a bigger club. I think he's at his level. I don't think he would be a higher level than that. He's a good little player. Definitely not. He's not going to improve us. We might as well get Harry Winks back.
It'd basically do a Johnson.
I think he's a Harry Winks.
Okay. Johnson.
No, I don't know. I disagree with that. I think he's a Harry Winks.
Okay. It's just I don't think Johnson's good enough for this level. I think he should have stuck with Nottingham Forest, personally. But again, I know you've got hope in Johnson, haven't you? The annoying thing about Johnson is the pace he's got on him, but he's just got no balls on him whatsoever. He's hardly ever got the bottle to take on his player. Out of all the crosses he does, he needs about 10, 15 attempts to do a good one. And yeah, okay, he gets a good one here and there, not tapping here and there. I just don't think he's significantly good enough for what we actually need. But I do get the point that you make is if he had a better, stronger mentality as such, he could possibly be better.
Yeah, I think the way to describe him is if your daughter brought him home as her new boyfriend, you'd go, actually, he's a very nice, polite, young human being. I'm quite happy with this. But I don't want that. I want an absolute slag of a man out on that wing, absolutely going out, dominating the nightclub scene, pulling a 10 out of 10 bird every night and cracking on with life because he's a winger. He's got to go out there, get me goals. He's got to be ruthless. He's got to be, that killer instinct. And that's why I'm saying, we touched on it last night, the Dele Alli, that little bit of arrogance in his head. Dele Alli had that, and that's what I think helped him go from being a good player to that very good player for that sort of couple of seasons. And I think if Brennan Johnson can get that little bit of nastiness in his game, a little bit of ruthlessness, then his physical attributes will help him become a better player than what he is, and therefore become better at Tottenham. But I've got my doubts whether he'll do that, because I think he's just a generally nice human being, and will that go into him? I don't know. I'm doubtful, but I'm hopeful, Dan. I hope that he turns out to be a decent player for us. But I understand why people have many concerns and reservations about him doing that.
I mean, what is it? Why insult someone for an opinion? Strange people. It's just my opinion on him, and that's that, basically. Simple as that. I don't think he's got the balls for it, if that's what the comment is aimed at. Simple as that. If that's an insult, then so be it. I just don't think the fella's got the mentality or the balls, and I don't actually think he's good enough. But I agree with what you say, Dave. If he had a better mentality, he could possibly use what he does. I mean, seeing as this one's just got mentioned, I've been also seeing that we're meant to be sort of looking a little bit at bringing Dele Alli back and offering him something like $5,000 a week and then 10 grand every, if he plays a game. Now, I know it's one that not a lot of people have spoke about, and the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I've seen it on the side, just see it on the side here. What would you reckon if we actually got Dele Alli back? What do you think on that?
I'll come back to that. I think there's something going on in the chats, a couple of mentions of, I wouldn't be putting those comments on, Dan. I think that's not where we want to be going with this chat. And anyone doing that, we can kick them out, right? We don't want to, it's just, we're talking about football team here. I don't want any chat going on in the chat that's about other stuff than football. Have a joke, have a laugh, but not about serious stuff. Or kicked out.
I mean, this ain't politics, and Lord Rodney, you're good near, but that comment, I'm going to give you that one chance on that. Fuck off with your comments, mate. That's well below the belt, that ain't needed. This ain't fucking politics, mate. It's just football. I know football's just as good as politics, but leave it out of there, otherwise I'll just ban you for that one. That's your one fucking chance. Lay off.
So to answer your question about I listen, Dele Alli is not the Dele Alli that he was when he was had that 3 seasons or so under us, being really, really good. Plus our system of play I don't think really suits him. Anyway, so even if we did have the best Dele Alli available, I don't think he fits into this system as well as he would have done under that Poch, where he was allowed to be not an attacking midfielder, but like almost a second striker with freedom to roam. But Dele Alli is not the same Dele Alli before both injuries and obviously his mental side of things. So it's a no-go, 100% no-go. I wish him all the best. If he needs training facilities to come along, get himself fit, then I'm happy for our club to help him with that. If he needs any help beyond that with his mental side, I'm happy for our club to do that. But do not mention him as being a potential player in our squad again, because that Dele Alli is not there anymore.
No, I mean that's the one bit where it just drifts me a little bit, where I just think, do you know what? If he could get his head together and get back to playing how he was, I wouldn't see it as a bad gamble as such of paying him $5,000 a week and 10 grand if he plays a game. But what are the chances of him getting back to those levels? I don't think so. I don't necessarily agree on going back on yourselves and that. So for me, it's a no-go. But there is that little side of me that says, do you know what? If they did actually manage to get his head together and get him back to what he was and paying him that sort of money, do you know what? Honestly, I'd rather take the gamble with Dele Alli than I would have got in Timo Werner again.
Do you know what? It's a kind of signing that you could see happening at this club. Come the 30th of August, we've missed out on good targets. And then we end up saying, we got Dele Alli back, and put out a nice video on social media. And some people will be happy with that, Dan.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
That's just Spurs all over.
I wish him all the best.
Yep, same. I mean, the other one we keep hearing a lot of as well is Jacob Ramsey. Now, for me, I could understand if Spurs went for him, but at the price he's looking for him, like 30, 50 mil or an exchange for Lo Celso, I don't think he's no one that's going to improve us in any way. But if we was to pay something like 20 mil for him after we'd bought significant other player or two we needed, and we paid 10, 20 mil for him and swapped him for Lo Celso, I'd be all right with that, because I think you'd see more football out of him than you do Lo Celso. Because the thing is, I think Lo Celso's he's good. And he plays good for Argentina. It's just when it comes to Spurs, he's always fucking injured. And if we got rid of him and paid, say, 10 mil with Villa, which wouldn't happen because I know Villa would want more, it's not going to improve us, but it gives us a player there who can play as such.
Listen,
but I don't think it improves our midfield.
Lo Celso is not going to have a decent career at Spurs. He'll go and he'll be forgotten. But I would not be surprised if he went to another club and done well, because there is that ability in him. But that ship sailed with Tottenham now. We need to cut our losses with him. And I've heard that as well. Villa are interested with him, for him. And Jacob Ramsey is probably one of our priority targets. Not mine, but as the club, he's been one of our priority targets. And we have a big gaping hole in terms of competition, not cover, Dan, competition for Maddison's position. So the Jacob Ramsey one ticks a lot of boxes in terms of the club. I can't say I'm overly impressed, but on the same token, there are worse players out there. He's an upgrade on Lo Celso, I think, but that's because Lo Celso's underperformed for Spurs, not because I think Lo Celso is fundamentally a bad player. But I just don't think mentality-wise he's ever fitted in at Spurs. It's not worked out for him. I don't think he's got the desire to play for this club anymore. And I'd rather cut my losses with him because it's not worked out. It's like, you're with a woman and you know the relationship should have ended a couple of years ago, but you carry on for the kids and you end up disliking one another. I think the relationship with Lo Celso's getting that way. It's just, let's have a divorce. You know, you can still see the kids every now and again for a night out because I know you've got friends at the club. But get out. You're not going to play for my team because it's proven over the last few years you're not good enough. Get rid of him. And the Jacob Ramsey one, we've got a big hole to fill in that. So I personally think it's either Jacob Ramsey is the second priority after Eze for the club. That's how I feel the club's looking at that. Eze is number one priority if we can get it done. And if we can't get him, I can see us going for Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, you would see games out of him. And just a quick one on the chat again. David Derrill, I have to say this many YouTubers from certain background only celebrate whatever. Mate, I'm going to say the same to you. Don't even fucking bring it up on here, yeah? I couldn't give a toss about religion. I don't give a shit what's going on in the world here and now. It ain't politics. I don't care what's going on out here. We talk about football, yeah? So again, I'll give you that one chance. Bring it up again and you can fuck off. But apart from that, mate, I've got no problem with anything else you say. And
to be fair, there's a lot of comments going back and forth. And to be fair, I've not read every single comment that's gone on there, so I don't know who's done what. I just don't think it's the place to be talking about it. So,
exactly. This is football. So anybody, religion, politics, leave it the fuck out. I don't care about it. And with the other one as well, it looks like Reguilon is going to be on his way. It's just the choice he's got really is Seville and Fenerbahce. Sevilla won him on loan, but Fenerbahce, Mourinho is actually meant to be willing to put in 8 million for him. I mean, he's one that's definitely got to go as well, isn't it? Sooner the better, basically.
Yeah, he's another one a bit like Lo Celso. There's some talent there, and you can see why we would have brought him in the past, but it's not worked out for him. So off you go. No point dragging it out. But we are short at left back as well. So when we talk about priorities about where we should be buying, I like Odogi. Doji, whichever way you want to pronounce that. I can't remember which way it is round now.
Everyone's got their own way.
Yeah, I like him, but every single position for any Premier League club, but specifically those that want to be in that top four conversation, want to be challenging for titles, want to be challenging for trophies, need 2 good players for every single position. And we currently only have 1 left back. So yes, to sell Reguilon. But yes, we need to buy another left back. And I've gone round to scouting networks on transfer market and listed out loads of sort of thinking what Tottenham will buy, right? They're going to buy someone that's between 20 and 24, round about the 20, 25, 30 mil mark. And there's quite a few options out there, Dan. So I would expect if I was running the club, I would expect my recruitment team to be looking for another left back if we're letting Reguilon go.
Okay.
And which I think we should let him go, by the way, because I don't think he's proven himself at this club, and I think the time has come for us to get rid of him. But if we're getting rid of him, we need another left back in.
All right. Before we go to the formation side, then, just a quick question for you then. Dave, wouldn't Bergville be the competition for Maddison rather than a Ramsey?
So, yeah, it's an interesting one, this. So when I was putting my who's first choice, who's the competition, and then who's maybe third choice, the youth player, I put Bergville in as the youth player third choice. Now, I think he's a good player, and I think there's a chance we could see him playing some games this season. But I want someone to compete with Maddison for the starting role. Is he ready for that now? I don't know, is the answer to that. I don't think so, if I'm going to put my house on it. I personally think we need to buy someone who's ready, but Bergville could prove me wrong, is probably my reply to that. And yes, I do think Bergville's best position is the Maddison position. So I think there is a chance he could be his competition. But I would like to see us buy someone. As I say, an Eze, or we probably won't get Eze. We'll end up with Ramsey, knowing Spurs. But I think that's the two that we've been looking at. There's a lot of rumours about both of them throughout the summer, right? And I think there are two. If we don't get Eze, we'll go for Ramsey.
Okay. Right. So I'll leave it to you to go on to this one then, because you said you wanted to speak about that. So take it on from there, mate, with the formations.
Well, I'm going to get a lot of stick now, probably, for this. So I was just doing a little assessment of our squad. Now, before anyone kicks off about this, I'm just purely looking at where Spurs are now going into this season. I'm not saying this, if, for example, the greens there, I think, are ready for this season to be first choice and challenging for first choice. The yellows in there, I think we need to do better, or they need to improve. Oranges, I think we definitely need to upgrade as soon as we possibly can, but it might be hard to. And the reds, I think we need to get rid ASAP. So I think what's clear there, and I think a lot of people would agree with me in terms of our back five, isn't the worst back five. It's a back five that you can sit there and go, let's challenge for the top four, let's challenge for titles, let's challenge for cups. And I think with Dragusin in there as cover for Romero, I think that is the only position in the entire 11 that I feel we've got two really good players challenging for one position, which to me is a good thing for the centre-back at right-hand side, but it's a bad indictment on the rest of our squad building. I think that centre midfield is a big worry when I think I'm being generous to Bentancur when I've marked him as a green as a starter, but I would very much be open to an argument against actually all of those midfielders listed there in those two centre midfielder positions are actually not that great, and we could upgrade every single one of them, and I would take that on board. As I've already touched on, Udogie, I don't think there's cover for him. Even if you've got Davis there, I don't think Davis is that left back. I think Davis is a second defender in a left-sided three at the back.
With the Udogie thing, quick, Dave. With the Udogie thing, I think about the only cover we have for him, and I think we spoke about this yesterday with Savard, is Van der Ven moving on to a left back, but then that is completely open in the middle. Dragusin, yes, can be a centre back, but he's not going to do what Van der Ven does.
Listen, if we had to do it for a game or two, Dan, I'm very, very happy with that, to do that for a couple of games.
Yes, for a game or two.
Yeah. But I'm not planning. This is me thinking where we're planning for this squad. And I know they're laughing about challenging for titles in the comments there, but this is what I mean. This is how far away I think we are from challenging to the title. For title. Because if you are challenging for the titles, you need probably about 15, 16 greens in that. You can handle one or two positions thinking we could do with a bit of an upgrade in there. But at the moment, we don't even have enough greens in our starting 11 for me. I'm not confident our strike force is great. I've put them all as yellows. Lancashire, purely because there's a third choice youth team striker coming through, I don't think he's the worst. So give him a bit of a chance. But Solanke and Richarlison, I think they're not great. They're that second tier of striker. Not second tier as in second division tier. What I'm talking about is below that top tier that you need. I think our right wingers, we've already touched on Johnson and Kulusevski, not quite good enough. We could upgrade both of those. I've given Mickey Moore a green because I think at his age, his development is absolutely fine at his age, and I think he could go on to be a great player. The Maddison and Bergville, as you can see, I've split them because I still think we need competition for Maddison now. Bergville could prove me wrong. But then obviously the worry as well in that midfield is Basuma and Skip. I've put them as our kind of more defensive central midfielder. I don't think we've got a decent one there, and many people have touched on that.
No,
and obviously as well, going back up to Spence at right back, I don't think he's great cover for Porro. Again, I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't think he is. I've put Gray as a question mark in there because there's rumours that he's also been brought in as cover at right back. I don't agree with that, so that's why I've readied him and put him as a green as a youth team coming through as a third choice centre midfielder. And then goalkeepers as well, which is a bit of a worry, Dan. I think we need to go out and buy a goalkeeper to challenge Vicario, but I would be okay with it either being an experienced sort of goalkeeper that's coming to the end of his career, just coming in happy being a bit of a backup, but better with a ball at his feet than Foster. Or I'm happy to sit there and go get a 20, 21-year-old that is happy to be second choice for a season or two before he comes in and challenges Vicario properly. But Vicario needs a challenge. Goalkeepers can get lazy very, very quickly if there's no competition there. But the highlight being there, Dan, no, exactly. But the highlight being there, Dan, is there's a lot of work to be doing to make us a competitive squad. That's what I've tried to highlight with that colour-coded system. You can pick out names. You can sit there and say he should be a yellow, not a green. I totally get that. But my point is I don't think that squad is anywhere near enough to be challenging for titles and multiple trophies, which is where I want this club to be. But yeah, I don't know if you've got any thoughts specifically on anything there. I'll take the graphic off.
With everything you've put there, I can't really... I mean, I'm just looking at this now properly. I can't really fault any of that. I can't. I mean, the only thing I can fault there is like Werner. Werner should just be a red. He shouldn't even be on there. But I totally get what you're saying on here. I mean, that first 11 picks itself really most of the time, except the centre. But the team as a whole is pretty naked, basically, isn't it? It's pretty... Yeah, the team as a whole, we really don't have... I think you've put it spot on there, where Dragusin is basically our only real blatant cover that can take that space as such.
And arguably competition as well, right?
Yeah. Whereas everything else is pretty much all ifs, buts and maybes. I'd only seen him play one game properly, and that was literally 2 weeks before we actually said we were going for him. And he impressed me a lot because he was against Inter Milan, who I follow, and he totally bossed that from the back and scored the header against them. He's very, very strong in the air, and I think that's definitely Van der Ven's weakest point. And Romero, 50-50 sort of thing, for me, personal opinion. And the other thing is with Dragusin, I look on him as more of... He's a bit of a mix between an old school centre back, but he can also sort of play as a bit of a modern day one, as a ball playing centre back. He's very good at getting forward. He's quick. He's got some pace on him. He's good with the ball. He's strong in the air. But one thing with the man that we definitely noticed on the Euros is he's very, how do I put it? He's very robotic with how he moves as such. Him turning around and coming back on himself, he's not doing it. By the time he turns around, the player's already gone. Whereas Van der Ven can literally just do a 180 straight away, and he's chasing them down the pitch. And that is definitely a problem we will have there with Dragusin, unless we have him sitting back as more of a Romero sort of way. But I agree with what you're saying. There is a good player there. I personally think so. And it is the only one that really we do have out and out cover for that position. I mean, just looking at that again, that's quite scary. That's quite bad. Because that basically says there, in that back lot, all that's going to take is, one injury, and we're up shit street.
Yeah. So, looking at that, Dan, because I'm also conscious that I've got 45 minutes till I've got to be jumping off, and it's a hard stop as well. Mm-hmm. In terms of... That's where I think our holes are in the squad. So if we've got to sit there and go, right, transfer priority number one is this position. Transfer priority number, not the players, just what position should we be going for next? Bearing in mind, I think we'll buy 3 more maybe. But if you had to sit there and say, what's the priority next?
And that's the question. I mean, there's a few places there where it is a priority. But for me, everyone keeps saying about the six, but we don't play with an out and out six, but we definitely need that midfielder who can control a game, boss a game, sort of change the tempo or control the tempo of a game. Because the closest we've got to that is Bentancur, I think. And we also definitely, without a doubt, need a winger who can actually cross that bloody ball. But then we definitely need a left back for cover. We definitely need another centre back for cover. And right back, I don't feel we're covered, but I'm sure we're just going to stick with Spence. And a lot of people are going to go on about, yeah, but he had a good friendly game. Yeah, great. We're not exactly covered there either. So most of that team, we just ain't fucking covered at all, are we?
And you know, Levy's put his money into Spence as well, so he's probably going to be the last one to be covered, replaced out of those. So I can see him being our second choice right back going forward.
He's put his pocket money into it, basically. Right. So the other thing I'm going to bring up on the screen now,
but I'll agree with you, Dan. By the way, actually, I agree that centre midfielder is still the hole we need to replace first. Left back second, but we could be clever and get a left back that can play left centre back, or a left centre back that could play left back. So I think we could be a bit clever there, creative.
Exactly
and then I would say again, I still think we need 5. By the way,
yes.
Then I would say an attacking midfielder centre, and I'd still say we need a striker. And if Richarlison goes, then that striker becomes top priority.
I mean, if we get rid of Richarlison, could you see us going for Tony or someone like that David, like we mentioned earlier, that Jonathan David, the one Brian likes?
To be fair, I think both of them an upgrade on Richarlison. And I think that's all we ask for a signing is an upgrade on what you've already got. I understand that we can't go out and buy, say, like Ozyman, for example, who would be a really good, close to world-class player that you can get, right, for a striker that's available, young, hungry, gets goals. But we're not in the market for an Ozyman. And I understand why we're not in the market for Ozyman, because he can do better than Tottenham at the moment. And I'm a realist to know that. But I think what can we get? Jonathan David, Tony are better than what we've got. So I'm happy that if one of those was to come in and Richarlison goes, I'm happy if one of them comes in and Richarlison stays, by the way. You can never have too many good strikers.
No, that's one thing you can't have. Right. But people on the chat, give me an idea about what you would play as a formation. I will come to those once we've done this. But this personally, what I've got here is a 5-2-2-1. I mean, some would say it's a 3-4-2-1, whatever way you want to say it. There's loads of ways of doing it. But this is how I would personally start up my team. And with that, I think it speaks itself on who goes where. Obviously, Vicario on goal, BDV left centre-back, Dragusin in the middle with Romero as the right centre-back. Now, with this, obviously, left-back goes Udogie. Obviously, the right-back goes Porro. Now, the reason I'd like to play it like this is because these two should be doing this. They shouldn't be bloody doing that. Now, with them two going forward, I'd have Bentancur here as my sort of deep line playmaker as such. And for me, I would tell him, stay there. Stay in midfield. I don't want him coming up here. I want him staying there. So if the ball comes over with these two over up here, and the ball comes wide, say it comes over to the left, these two can move over, and we've also got a cover down here. I think that just covers us a lot better, and it's the closest I think we could do with a 6. Obviously, I'd have my box-to-box man here, which at the moment, would it be Sarr? Would it be Basuma? I'd probably have Sarr there to push forward a bit. And obviously have the wing-backs going forward, like I said. And then with here, I would play Maddison to just do what you want, mate. If you want to go over there and cross it, over there. But give him his bloody breathing space. And the thing I'd use probably at the moment Kulusevski for is sort of like a false 9, shadow striker. So when it all comes up, say Maddison can go in the middle and we can almost have 2 up front if we wish. Solanke, I would say you stay up there and do not come back unless it is a 5 minute to go and it's a corner or something. Stay up the other end of the pitch. I don't care what's going on, because that makes their defence stay back a little bit more as well. And then Kulu, obviously, I'd have him coming across here basically as a false 9, whatever, maybe as a target man even, to hold the ball for Maddison to come through and pass it either to the sides for one of the wing backs coming up. And that would be my ideal for the players we have got. I mean, what do you think on that one, Dave, and people on the side?
Well, I love the formation, but I would love it because it's the formation I played just over 10 years ago, well, 11 years ago now, when I managed my team to the title. It was also the same formation that got us relegated the season after, by the way. But I got us promoted in season 1. But that was partly to do with my transfer policy. I lost 2 great wingers and the replacements were nowhere near as good. But in terms of just, if we're talking that formation, for getting Ange, I've got no issues with this formation. I think it's a very solid formation, and a lot of the reasons why you've covered. I think solidity at the back's one, the back 3, as long as the 2 out centre backs are mobile enough, which I think with Romero on the left, Van der Ven on the left, Romero on the right, which is how I'd have it, and Dragusin as the sort of enforcer sweeper.
Who can also come back as the sweeper and DM sort of thing, who can push a little bit forward if needed to, and come back a little bit.
And go. Exactly. So I think the player-wise there is actually more suited to the 3 centre-halves we've got there. And as you say, the wing-backs, there's no issue with them being flying wing-backs in the old traditional sense, up and down, up and down, up and down. I think both of our wing-backs are perfect for that. So I think the 5 good defenders that we've got in the squad would be suited to play that system. I think what this system also gives, and this is why I liked it at the level I was playing at, was you create a situation a lot of the time where you've got 4 in centre midfield. And you very, very rarely get outnumbered. Even if they play a 3 in there, you still got the extra player. So you can dominate midfield a lot of the time, which is obviously a lot of the game at this level of football, right? I mean, I've done it at a lot lower level, but at the highest level, it's the biggest area, isn't it? That centre midfield. And you obviously need a good striker to lead the line. So I sometimes flipped it when I was playing, depending on who I had available. Do you remember? I won't go do surnames, but you remember Jamie used to live near us.
Yeah.
He was
yeah. I know you.
Yeah. So he was a little magician on the ball. So if I had him, I could have him as that attacking centre midfielder on his own, and then I could play with 2 out and out strikers. But sometimes I flipped it and had the 2 behind the 1. But you've got the option there, being flexible is what you're getting at, Dan. Now, in the real world, and this is the issue, Ange will not play this system.
No, so it's this is just our opinion.
I know. I just wanted to clarify that we're not saying that this is what we think Ange will do. This is what we're saying he could and arguably should do. And also with this formation, so downsides of it, right? You couldn't play our world-class players, Brennan Johnson and Timo Werner, in this system, Dan. So I don't know how. I don't know how you're getting them in this team. But no, jokes aside, it's obviously a formation without wingers. And so them 2 wouldn't obviously be able to play this system. So we'd need to get rid of those and buy in better players. I'm not against that argument, by the way. I just don't think it would be happening. And this is one of the reasons why I don't think it would be happening. But yeah, fundamentally, Dan, I think solid through the middle. I think as long as you've got the 2 wing backs, which we have, it needs 2. So I actually played wingers out there, not wing backs. I just asked them to get back defensively as much as they could. And what I asked my right centre, or
further up?
No. So there was kind of like, you remember wingers in a 4-4-2. Yeah, so they'd be up and down still. They'd have to get back and defend and help their left back and right backs. So I'd ask them to play like that rather than like the modern winger that plays in a 3.
That's why you can call this formation, you can call it a 5-2-2-1, or some will call it a 3-4-2-1 as such, because that is exactly what the wing backs are doing. Your wing backs are there to come back and also go forward. But the way with them here, you're also covered here where you got 3 at the back basically, and your man who can come back and cover you. So I totally get where you're going.
As I say, just how I played it was that I had wingers out there, but I just asked them to do whatever you wanted to do going forward in terms of getting forward, but make sure you're getting back as much as you possibly can. But I had a left-sided centre-back and a right-sided centre-back. I was the sweeper in the middle. I just made sure those right-sided and left-sided were comfortable for periods of the game, dropping out to be a right back, dropping out to be a left back, because they'd have to shift across. So what the argument was that the left centre back would become a left back, the 2 remaining centre backs would become the 2 centre backs, and then your right winger would have time to get back and fill in and be the right back. But the only difference to what you've got there is my two centre midfielders in front were out and out defensive midfielders. I did not give them permission to get forward. So the other argument was that
Bentancur, basically, you stay here. You stay basically this area here.
So I also
there.
Yes, I also I forced them to play on one side as well. So my left-sided DM couldn't go to the right-hand side of the pitch. Obviously, there was the odd time where it had to happen because of the game just going that way. But the idea was one covered the left. So if the left winger couldn't get back in time, they either became the left winger defensively or the left back defensively, depending on what needed to happen at that time. And then the remaining defensive midfielder on the other side would come in and play the central defensive midfielder. So you've always got the cover in there no matter what. But it's kind of mute, Dan, because I don't think we're going to play this, but I would like to see us adapt in certain games to play this. Because the other way you could do it is if you could you could still play with more defensive wing backs, still play with wingers, and sacrifice one of the central players. Which is kind of what Conte tried doing.
I want it. Yeah, I get what you mean. Go on.
If you just shift it around for me, just move the attacking midfielder out to be right wing. The other centre midfielder be left wing. And then you kind of got the two DMs become two centre midfielders, like kind of just old school centre midfielders. Yeah, like so. So obviously that's how we played under Conte, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. We soaked up the pressure. And then counter-attack because we had three strikers at the top end of the pitch. That's how we was playing under him in the simplest possible way. I know it was more intricate than that, but that's the simple way of doing it.
Yeah. No, I get where you're going there. The other thing I like about a formation like this is why I've picked it like that, is because even though I've got it set, like my defenders, I could have these two come out wide than that, but for me, it would be Dragusin. The furthest you go is there or there. Is even if the pressure comes up on you, I'd have Dragusin come back a little bit, where these two can tighten up in the middle, and then these can come back a bit further. And then I've also then got my DM there to then, if needs be, to bring back Maddison into the middle here, to then bring back Basuma to here. And then I'm totally cleared there with Kulusevski coming back to say there. And then as soon as we get the ball, obviously everything goes forward, get the ball there, get the ball here, and then you can also have it overlapping. That is why I like that formation, because you can have it as your set part, but it's also very fluid as well, I think. And I think with the players we got, I mean, okay, I'm no manager, I'm not Ange, but for me, that formation works better than what Ange is going to get with his formation.
Yeah, and I don't think it will happen, but it would be a good step in the right direction if we saw him just do it for the odd game, maybe a Man City away, maybe in one of the Europa Leagues when we want to, maybe just do a little experiment. I don't know. It'd be nice to see him do it, but I doubt he will do it.
No, he's not gonna change. He's not going to change anything, and we know that. But so people on the side know, this is just a personal opinion on what I would do with the team I've got, and the same with you. And so a quick question off Phil here is, let me just bring this off the screen. There we go. And Dan and Dave, if we have the start that we did last season, would people have the same energy about Ange's tactics? No. I still wouldn't if we had the start that we had last season, because I know how much it can fall to pieces. But there'd be a lot of people out there that say, oh, see, they're getting the hang of it. It's working again. And then after 10 games, it all goes to shit again. That's my personal opinion. Dave?
Yeah, no, to be fair, it is a great point, actually. And I think it probably clouds my judgment a little bit, because I saw how dynamic we were. I don't want to use the word good, because I know there's arguments in that 10-game period where actually we were a bit lucky in a couple of games not to concede more goals, and at key crucial times, I know you've touched on this, Dan, I think it weren't as good as the results suggest. I don't think we were playing brilliant football for 10 games and won 8, drew 2 based on our good football. I think there was a lot of good football played in that, and then we got caught out a bit, and then that coincided with our injuries, and then we never really recovered from that point. I think there were games in there like the Villa away game we should have won, and didn't, but we absolutely smashed them for most of the game. There was like a lot of games I felt we were on top, couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and then ping down the other end, we concede a stupid goal that you could argue with the tactics, letting them get in towards the final third of our final third, but also individual mistakes, like missing a pass or missing an interception. So I think we shot ourselves in the foot a lot of the games last season. But yeah, no, it is a great point. I think I would agree that I'm probably one of the guilty ones on that I'm giving Ange a bit more leeway because I saw this start and I saw it working. And when it worked, it looked really good. But I've taken on board over the course of the summer and towards the end of the season. I've heard a lot of good debates about this. And actually, we didn't play as good football as I personally thought we did at the time. I probably retracted.
We were very lucky, I think.
Yeah, I've sort of brought down my views of it. I don't think we were as good as I thought we were at the time, if that makes sense. I've since had time to reflect on it and actually looking back on it, listening to people's arguments, gone, actually, you've got some good points there. I'll agree with you probably on some of it that we weren't actually as good as I initially thought we were. That's probably the way I'd sum it up. So it'll be interesting to see this season. I don't expect Ange to reinvent the wheel with his tactics. What I do want to see, and I do expect a few tweaks, is just those little minor adjustments in certain situations. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of tactics. It's just certain situations, as we covered last night, Dan. Do we need 2 flying wing backs when we're playing 4 at the back all the time? Can we not at certain periods of the game just ask one of them just to sit a bit deeper so we've got the 3 at the back on the counter-attack? Can we ask one of our central midfielders, don't always be a hybrid 6-8. Certain periods of the game, you're 6. Don't go more than 5-10 yards away from your centre-backs. Can we just do little tweaks like that, Dan, is what I'm asking for next season. Ange proved it at the last couple of games. It was too late, I know this, but like the Man City game, where he actually changed his tactics and shown that you can do something slightly different. So I do want to see a little bit more about that. I think naturally next season, we will see a lot of tweaks in personnel because we've got more games and I think we're getting more. I think our squad's slightly better. I wouldn't say it's a great window so far, by the way. I still think we need to do a lot of business, but I think we're in a slightly better position in certain positions, excluding centre midfield. I think we've weakened there, but that's another argument.
I mean, this now going to how Ange does it, yeah, and this is one of the problems that really gets me with it is if he would just tweak 1 or 2 little bits, I think we could have a lot. I still don't think we've got the sort of team or the manager that could win us a league or nothing, not at all. But if he would at least just tweak a couple of his things, you know, 1 inverted wing back going at a time, the other makes it 3 at the back, or make it more steady with a number 6. I think that could change him a lot. Obviously, the zonal marking, if he sorts that out, that's another 10 goals we don't bloody concede. And if we only have 1 going back at a time, then 1 going forward at a time, and we're covered at 3 at the back. I think that's a few more goals less we concede, and a few more points that we could have got last season that would have easily got us 4th place. I mean, some of it is just common sense, basically, for me. And just say hello, Eugene. How are we doing?
Hi, Eugene.
I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, mate.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm on off day. So, yeah. So, let's see what we can come up from here.
Right. So, if you've been watching this, with the formation that me and Dave have put on here and how we said we would play it as such, how would you do your formation? What would you play?
Guys. Right. I
can bring it up on the screen. I can bring it up on the screen for you and you tell me what to do.
Yeah. All right. We don't know what the numbers are at the moment, right? If I'm not mistaken. At this moment in time, with the players we have, my formation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. From you talking about the formation that we should play.
Mm-hmm.
With Ange, we will know. He'll. I mean, if you're
yeah, but I'm talking about your opinion. How would you do this? We'll go to what Ange should change in a minute. What would you do?
What I would do with this is, right, I'll play with 3 at the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use the wingers of, we'll use our fullbacks, Dogi and Poro.
Would you have them up there as wingers or basically left wing backs, right wing backs?
Left wing back, right wing back, right? So they run
okay. So that's
right.
your back line done.
Yeah. All right. The midfield. So I'm back to 5. So if we are going to be, I got 4. I have to strengthen up the midfield now, right? I'll go 3.
3 in the middle, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 1-1.
So basically similar to how I would do it, except with 3 in the middle instead of 2.
Yeah.
And well, you don't even really have to ask with a back lot. We all know who that's going to be. But who would be your 3 for the middle and what they're doing?
Okay, this is going to be weird. What I've seen at the moment, right? Okay. I'm basing this all on the preseason, on what the players, the youngsters, and whoever we have, right? For the starting 3 in the middle, this is going to be.
I don't even think it's tricky, mate, because we haven't exactly got option.
No, but the thing is that I'm looking at whether I'll put in Archie Gray or will I put in Bergwall, where I'm going to put them, right?
Fair enough.
Use them. You get what I'm saying? Because at the moment now, am I going to use, let's say, Maddison as the, guy at the back, use Solanke at the front, or am I going to use Son as one of the mid-wingers or some kind of new formation that we're going to set up? Okay, let's put Son on the left, right? Middle, I will use Bentancur.
What, these 2? Bentancur and
Middle, okay, Son on the left.
Okay.
I'm going to change all this around. Son will be the left.
Change it.
Bentancur in the middle, and right, I'll use Decky. Right, Maddison will be the 10, and Solanke will be the 9.
Okay.
Yeah. Something like
that. Okay, slightly different, but yeah. I mean, with my formation, the way I do it, I wouldn't even have Son in my first team. I mean, that's, some people would say that's just some would say that's just crazy, but with the way I would want to play, Son doesn't make my first team. The only thing I could possibly do with Son there is maybe use him as my sort of shadow striker to just hang around the box and have a few shots. But then for me, he hasn't got the strength to do what I want him to do, like Kulusevski as being sort of like my mix of a false 9 and a target man at the same time. Because I think Kulusevski's got the muscle to hold the ball with his back to goal, while Maddison could come past him and he could knock it to the side and put it onto Solanke or whatever. It's all with buts and maybes, and we know this shit ain't
just a quick one about. Just a bit one about Kulusevski, Dan, just because you touched on it there. And obviously pre-season, I got the impression he was playing as a striker because we didn't really have a striker in the squad at the time rather than... But I guess that's the question I'm about to ask. Do you think Kulusevski will be used as an additional striker, or was that purely because we didn't have one in pre-season he was playing there and he will still be a right winger? Or, third part of that question, sorry, do you reckon he will be Maddison's competition as well? Because we haven't quite got a competition for Maddison. So it's kind of a 2-part question.
I reckon he'll get used for all 3, basically. And I think everybody who knows me now knows, for me, Kulusevski is not my right winger. Not at all. You saw the best of him at Juventus when playing with Ronaldo, as basically he was playing as a false 9. Bit of a, what's his name? Who was it at Liverpool? Firmino? Bit of a style like that one sort of thing. No, he's not on the same standards as Firmino, but I can definitely see him trying to give the competition to Maddison. But then we've also got Bergvall there, who can give that competition to Maddison, I think. I mean, I must admit, Bergvall has very much impressed me. But, like people say, they are only friendlies. But he's definitely impressed me more than Gray has. Gray doesn't look ready for the Premiership as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen on the friendlies, whereas Bergvall does. But going back to what you said about Kulusevski, I think he's going to get used on the right and as an attacking midfielder, sort of like Maddison's role. And I think if the shit hits the fan, he'll also get put as a striker, as a third choice, basically. Because the next choice at the moment would be Son, and then I think it'd be Kulusevski.
Yeah. And I guess the worst case scenario is we do sell Richarlison, don't get another striker in, and Kulusevski is our second striker behind Solanke, right?
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Yeah, that's when the trouble comes into it, basically. I mean, Eugene, what do you think about that? What we're going to do with Kulusevski? You're on mute again.
Maybe it's just practicing his mime act.
I don't know. Eugene, you was on mute again. Eugene, you're on mute. Or something like that.
I don't think it's actually on mute. It's I think your microphone's just disconnected. Yeah, cool. We'll just carry on chatting while he sorts that out then, Dan. Yeah, no, it'd be an interesting one for Kulusevski, because there's a part of me thinking he's just playing there because in terms of the squad available, it's like in pre-season, especially after like the Euros and Copa America, there's a lot of players missing. So you can't really read too much into the formations we've been played. And we was playing like Donnelly at left back and things like that. So I didn't read too much into it. But then the more I was thinking about it was, actually, is Kulusevski, is he going to be Maddison's competition that can also fill a hole in the right wing? Or is he going to be backup striker that can also play attacking mid on the right wing? Or is his first position under Ange still considered right wing, but he could just fill in and do a job in the other positions if we need? And I totally respect the fact that we've got a player in the squad that can do multiple roles. I think it's important to have players like that. The odd one or two, Dan. Yeah,
you guys
hear you, Eugene.
Okay,
yeah, I can hear you now, mate.
That's good.
But the worry for me is that I still don't think Kulusevski being cover for Maddison, Kulusevski being cover for a striker, or even Kulusevski being a cover for a right winger, competition, not cover, is decent in any one of those positions, if you know what I mean. I think if that is the case, we need to upgrade one of those positions. If he's the cover for a striker, we need another striker. If he's the cover for Maddison, we need another competition for Maddison. If he's our second choice right winger, we need a better second choice right winger, right, to challenge Brennan Johnson. That's what I'm thinking about that, Dan. It's good to have Kulu that can play all three over a course of a season, but you want two good players in every position that's their first choice position. That's what I'd want to see.
Exactly.
But anyway, sorry, Eugene. We were just chatting to pass the time whilst waiting for you to get back.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I turned the mic volume down. So. Okay, guys, to tell the truth, right? We know where we are, right? Like what we have been seeing going on all this while, right? We never get the right people to play in the right positions, and we try to, get one player to play 5 positions. So at this moment in time, the only choice is that all I can see is, right, Decky will be used as a utility winger, false 9, right, striker, and whatever we can do, because we ain't going to pay the money for the people who actually want to do that, who are suited for that job. But in the preseason, okay, I'll take the Bayern games. Guys, we have to admit, right, Bayern Munich, right, they are 2 weeks behind us, and they look so much more sharper than us. And the worst part is, I don't know how to say this. I mean, is it because of the Euros and the Copa America? Our players coming back late, we have seen a very mumbled and jumbled up preseason, and we really do not know what's going on. But we do see the traits of the set piece problems, the attacking. I mean, to tell the truth, why did we sign Solanke so late when we could have gotten him even before the Euros?
That's one part ended. I don't get.
Yeah, before the Euros ended, and we are paying 65 million for him. Why didn't we put 65 million? Okay, I get it. Spurs don't pay that kind of wages, so we ain't gonna attract the top quality players. We have to suck it up and admit that our club doesn't pay mega wages, so we won't get quality. That's all. But at this moment in time, we've seen how we've progressed. You know, we've not progressed. The players have been. We don't buy players for what they are used for. We buy players that we hope that they can play 3 positions in one time. You get what I'm saying? So it's confusing.
Yes.
All I can say is that I want to see that first match against Leicester and to see whether Ange has learned anything from last season and to see whether, guys, do you think Solanke is ready to be ready? I mean, will he be ready for the Leicester game? He's just come in a week ago, right? By the time he comes over, it'll be 2 weeks. Will he be ready to play the Ange ball that Ange wants? Right?
I mean, he's a striker. Stay forward and score the bloody goals. I mean, in some aspects, he's got an easier job than a lot of people of what he actually has to do. I mean, because a striker can go missing for 85 minutes in a game, and as long as he bangs it in the back of the net when it comes up to him, that's all that really matters with a striker. He's about the only player on the team that I say is allowed to go missing for a certain amount of time, as long as he scores when it comes to it.
Yeah, I understand that, Dan. And to tell the truth, right, like last season, how many times have we seen, right, Decky go down the right, he crosses the ball over, and it's with height. And we know that if you don't have Richarlison there, Stone ain't going to get the ball with his head. You get what I'm saying? Right? So maybe that will play into Solanke's strengths, right? But at this moment in time, we've been sussed out since...
Oh, completely.
We got
sussed out since 10 games, mate. We got sussed out since 10 games. And I must admit, those friendlies have done nothing for me to prove that he's changed it. And I think Rich on the side says here perfectly, as in 65 mil, he should go straight in. If he's fit enough,
yeah, Rich,
but
that's what I'm saying. Is he fit enough? You get what I'm saying? Is he fit enough?
Only time will tell on that one.
Yeah.
I'd like to think he is.
We all have to think he is.
I mean, he hasn't had no Euros or nothing. He's had his time off and that, hasn't he?
I'd assume so. I mean, like everyone else in pre-season, he's probably not going to be 100% match fit until 3-4 games into the season. But that's like everyone in pre-season. That's not a Solanke thing. That's just what happens. Pre-season's very hard to get ready for a season. It still takes a few games of proper games to get properly match fit. You'll hear every player that comes back from injury say the same thing. It still takes them a couple of proper games. You can have friendlies, but friendlies are never played at the same intensity. And you often play different teams for first 45 compared to the second 45. So I still think Solanke will be fit to start. He should be fit to start, but we probably won't see the best of him until he's had 4 or 5 games in the side. But I do agree with your point, actually, Eugene, what you touched on there, like at least... Because obviously Richarlison weren't always fit, and I don't think his positioning is always the best. I still think Solanke's an upgrade there in terms of having someone we could put a cross in the air to now. And he's also good when you play it along the floor to him as well. He's not probably as bad as I thought he was when I've had more time to think and reflect. I think he's probably a bit better than I gave him credit for. I still don't think he's a brilliant striker. I don't think he's top level. But I think he's an upgrade on Richarlison at the very least. And he's good in the air, so that's a plus. Dan, I've got to shoot in 12 minutes. Obviously, if you are carrying on past 5:30, I might be able to jump back on. But I don't know if you wanted to do a quick Okay. Did you want to quickly go through like our first 6 games, see where we're at, or?
Well, go on then.
Is there something else? Or is there something else you wanted to do?
No. Who are our first 6 games? I know we start with Leicester.
Leicester away, Everton at home, Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Brentford at home, Man United away. That's our first 6. Takes us up to the end of September.
Well, Leicester, I think we're going to go with a 2-2 draw because the problem is we concede goals. And I think the thing is with teams that have just come up, in their first 5-6 games, they usually come in all guns blazing, basically. And then it's usually... as the season goes on from there, you see them deteriorate. And then our next game from there?
Everton, home.
Everton, we should be doing. I think we'll do Everton 2-1. And then it's Arsenal, yeah? Arsenal, I just don't see us beating them.
No, we got Newcastle before Arsenal.
Oh,
we got them
Newcastle.
away.
God, I think Newcastle's even more scary than bloody Arsenal, isn't it? The amount of slappings we've had off them recently. Again, Newcastle, I think if nothing changes in the tactics, I think they will do us exactly the same way they did us last season and do us 4-2. And from there, you said it's Arsenal. I just don't see. Are we home or away for that one? Let's say, because I haven't got them up on it.
At home.
I can see us getting a 2-2 draw with Arsenal at home, because when it comes to an Arsenal game, I think a lot of things go out the window, don't they? Like an Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham game, a lot of things just go out the window. And it is pretty much on that day. But I think at home with Arsenal, we can squeeze a 2-2 draw, because there'd be that extra bit of passion in it. But I don't see that we've got the quality to beat them. And then after that,
I'll be muting myself. Brentford at home, sorry.
Yeah,
Brentford at home, we should be doing them 3-1.
And then we finish off September with Man United away.
Well, Man U seem to look like they're getting their team together, and that is not going to be an easy one. And Man U away, I can see us losing that 2-1, 3-2. So out of those games, I think that's going to be a very tricky start.
You're looking very positive in this.
I'm just being honest with what I've seen, and from what I've seen is Ange hasn't adapted nothing. If he does, and it shows in the first game or two, then everything can change. But with the way we were playing last season and the tactics we're using at the moment, that's going to be a very tricky first 6 games. I mean, Dave,
so you're thinking we get 8 points out of the possible 18. It was 2 wins, weren't it? Everton and Brentford. You think we'll draw with Leicester, draw with Arsenal, and we'll lose to Newcastle, lose to Man United. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to be slightly more optimistic, and I think we get 10 points, and we're undefeated after that first 6 games. But we win 2. We win 2, draw 4.
Oh, that's
okay.
Okay, guys, I'll go. Right, Leicester will win. All right, I think Leicester.
Yeah, I think we'll win that.
We'll win that because they'll come at us. Yeah, no, they'll come at us, and most probably they'll fall into the trap, and we'll catch them. Right, and hopefully Solanke will score because Leicester is, a newly relegated team. That's how I see it. Okay, the game against Everton, that one I'm going to say there's going to be a shock there. I'm not going to say Everton is going to win, but we're going to draw that game. You get what I'm saying? We're going to draw that game.
I think we'll win that one and draw the next 4. Yeah. That's how I've got it. Sorry, carry on.
I think we're going to draw that game. You know why? Because I think most probably the home side and most probably Sean Dyche would have figured us out, and it must be a high-scoring draw. You'll end up something like 2-2 or 3-3. You get what I'm saying? All right. And when we come to Newcastle, we're going to get hammered at Newcastle. Isak is going to tear us a new one with our highlight
on the wing as well, and Golden on the wing.
Yeah, and guys, we're going to lose to Arsenal. Seriously, right? We are not at that level, and we don't. Please don't pretend. Look at what Bayern Munich did to us.
Yeah, but with that one, Eugene,
and Bayern Munich were 2 weeks behind us in their preparation.
Yeah. But with that one, when it comes to Arsenal, like what Angus has said here, we'll beat you easily, I reckon. You've got the capability of doing it, but whenever it comes to a London game, a London derby, you can put everything out the window, basically. Because
it's not going to be
Eugene, hang on a sec. Because with a London derby, whether it's West Ham, whether it's Chelsea, which we seem to always get screwed, or Arsenal, Fulham, Palace, a lot of form seems to go under the window. And it's on that day as such. And
to me,
we can do it, but
I to tell you, right, we're going to lose. I was saying we're going to lose, right? But it's not going to be an easy win for Arsenal. Most probably it'll be a hard-fought game, and most probably I see Romero taking out Saliba or something like that, and he'll be injured for the rest of the season.
Well, that's
because it's so early in the season, right? Yeah, and it's so early in the season, the referees ain't going to red card him or something like that. No, most probably just a yellow. Right.
Oh, and
But
like
I
Brian
think
says here,
us losing. It'll be a tough fight there.
Hmm.
Brentford game. Yeah, most probably I'll see that. We will get a win there. Right. Manchester United game. Nah. I guess Ten Hag will most probably. I don't know, but if they get their signings in before call the proper signings in, they're looking at who now? The league and Morauzi or something like that from Bayern Munich. If those two comes in, it's going to be a tough chance for us to actually get close to them because they have actually, upgraded.
Well, so
So
with that,
yeah,
it doesn't look like the most positive start to a season, does it? And this is where
I don't know. If you listen to me, it is.
Well, with you, Dave.
We're undefeated in my world.
Well, let's hope it is like
we
that.
We win the first two, and then we draw 4 on a trot. That's how I see it happening.
Okay, so the other question I'll ask quick before we wrap this up then is just a quick one. Dave, do you see us capable of winning a cup this year, whether it's the Europa, whether it's the FA, or whether it's the League Cup?
I think we're definitely capable. History would tell you otherwise, but on the same token, these players were not playing 10 years ago, so you can't have a go at them not winning trophies 10 years ago because they weren't the players playing then. And obviously, in the last couple of years, it's actually been a rebuilt squad, so they can't carry around the tag of Tottenham not winning trophies because they've only been responsible for the last couple of seasons. And I think we've got the capabilities to do it. But cup games are hardest. I think actually the best chance we'll have it is probably the Europa because I don't think there's a man, particularly the way they've changed the rules now, Dan. You won't get the Champions League clubs dropping into it. So I think everyone's going to be either at Tottenham's level or just below it. We won't have a Man City to have to beat. We won't have even, dare I say it, the Arsenal to beat. I think there's tougher games in the League Cup and FA Cup to win the cup. So I think the Europa League's our best chance, and we can also lose a couple of games in the Europa League and still win the trophy, right? Whereas with the League Cup and FA Cup, 1-game knockouts. So I think, yes, we can. Our best chance is probably the Europa. And I think if we can do that and finish 5th or 6th, I think that's actually a decent season for the level of quality we've got in this squad. Although it's a damning incitement of how this club is run that our squad is in this position. But Ange can only work with he's got to take some blame for it, by the way, because obviously he's bought some of the players. But before I go, Dan, am I right in saying it's your anniversary today, yours and Beth's?
No, you've missed that one.
Missed it one? Okay, I thought I saw something earlier. I was about to say...
no, that was last month, mate.
Last month. All right, cool. I won't wish you happy anniversary then.
No, great. You missed
no,
that
I thought I saw something earlier on Facebook. Okay. Don't worry. But yeah, I've got to shoot. Eugene, nice to meet you again, mate. Dan, always a pleasure. I've got to jump off to
all right, then, mate. I'll catch up with you soon, Dave.
Come on, you Spurs.
Well, let's hope so. So, Eugene, what do you think our chances are on winning a cup?
0.
That bad?
Come on, guys. All right. Unless the only cup that I see that we can actually win, right, will be the Carabao Cup, right? But the Carabao Cup will bring us to Conference League. If you say the FA Cup is a bit more prestigious. We've got so many other stronger teams around us. Unless we get a perfect run all the way to the final, and do we feel like Ange will be able to do something in the final? We have not seen him do something against the English teams, right? The Europa League, guys, we will still have Manchester United in there. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to win the Europa League, right? But we are playing it in a different format now. It's a league format. We play 4 games at home, 4 games away. Then after that, the top 16 goes into the draw or something. Then top 12 goes in the draw. Then the other rest will have a playoff, and then we'll make it up into 16. That makes it on round 32. We'll see how that goes, right? How can we say? I guess what I've seen, to tell the truth, that a couple of shows that you've been doing, right? Nothing has changed, right? It hasn't changed in the past 3 years that I've been doing YouTube, apart from during Conte's reign, the players used to come in early, right? And then it dries up. We're going back to the old Levy style again, where we will have to wait until the last. I guess I don't think we've already completed our signings, right? Ange says that we still need players, but we've got youngsters in. Bergwall is coming in because we've already signed him earlier. He's part to join. He's already joining the squad. Archie Gray, the £40 million. Project Youth, right, and all that. But let's see how it goes. Like I said, nothing much has changed in Spurs. It is what it is. All I can say is that we'll just wait and be patient. And the first game of the season will be the indicator of how far we're going to be, how far we are at this moment in our progress or project or whatever, right?
Okay. We have another guest who, so I'm going to keep the show going for a bit, who wishes to give his opinion on this. Brian, how we doing, mate?
Hey, big up, brother.
Big up to you, Eugene. Big up to Dan. Big up to everyone in the chat. And I just want to say, and she knows who she is. There's a diamond that is in your chat, and she knows who she is. I haven't seen her for a while. So, Sue Smith, darling, it's always good to see you. But how
always has a good opinion on you.
Sue Smith, honestly, I cannot tell you my love for that woman. Ever since Tottenham away, We Are Tottenham TV, that woman is incredible. Never met her, never spoken to her apart from in the chat. She is a absolute diamond. I love that woman.
Right, she's one of the OGs, remember?
She is, and that's why whenever you see me do that, you know who she's talking about.
Right, so Brian, the first thing I'll ask you then is the thing we were just talking about. What do you think our chances are of winning a cup this year?
I honestly want us to go all out Europa League. I think it's honestly the easiest, or not the easiest, the most realistic one of us winning it. It's the easiest way to get into the Champions League again, if that's where we're going to go, because people are saying they think we can get top four, and if Man City get knocked down points or whatever, I cannot see top four in a million years as this squad stands right now. Not in a million years. So it's got to be right.
You see, with the top four thing, I just feel if the formation was changed and everything, and you changed it, I think we've got a team that can fight for top four. But with the way he plays and whatever, not a chance. We'll concede too many. So what do you think of the other cups? Do you think we can actually do it?
I want us to go for all the cups. Honestly, as people know, I'm one of those fans that want a trophy over top four any day of the week. We've now got, you got to remember, compared to last year where we seriously should have taken the cup seriously because we were only playing one game a week. There was no European football. We could have seriously made a charge for it. Well, now we've got 8 games in Europe plus the cup games. And you remember we played 3 cup games last year. We didn't even leave London.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even leave London. 2 at home, 1 away. And our squad is numerically weaker, but we're in another competition. So
that's not good. That's not good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Tottenham Hotspur.
Yay.
There we go.
Brian, yay, we got our Tottenham back.
I mean,
never left.
I think we've got the capability of winning a cup, and I would definitely want to see Ange go to the cups. But you're definitely right on what you're saying. I mean, squad-wise, we're limited anyway, and even more limited now. If I could actually see it how he was doing it, I would want us to just, take the league day by day as it comes, sort of thing. Because I don't see us getting higher than 7th or 6th. Anything higher than that, wow, well done. I'd want us to go all guns blazing for that Europa, because I agree with what you say. I think that Europa is one we could go for and win. And I think that is our best chance of Champions League.
Correct. Correct. No, if you look at it, where other teams have been strengthening, our teams ahead of us didn't really need strengthening, or as much as us. They will strengthen, obviously. If I said to you and Eugene and however many you've got in the chat right now, we're potentially going into our first game of the season in 4 days, 5 days, and the only addition that is probably guaranteed to start is Dominic Solanke.
Looks that way.
Spurs fans, if I said that to you at the beginning of the window, and I will say, even myself, this window, I said, you know what? We've actually brought in a transfer team. The manager's seen out the season. Maybe they are going to get their opportunity. Maybe. I tried it, as you know, Dan. I've taken a bit more of a back burner this summer with getting involved in all the transfer nonsense. But if someone said that we are only going to insist with Dominic Solanke, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Archie Gray. Massive fan of Archie Gray. Bergvall, team of it. Yeah, they are. They're not for the right here, right now. They're not here for the right here, right now. And it is what it is again, isn't it?
I think Bergvall, from what I can only go by what I see on the friendlies, for me, Gray looked all right. And then he played against a bigger team. And for me, in his last game, I think Bayern Munich absolutely destroyed him. And the reason I say destroyed is because he lost that ball excess 10 times. And then people saying to me, yeah, but he was running to get the ball back. Yeah, he shouldn't get himself in those positions in 10 games. 10 times in one game. But I do understand with Archie Gray, he is young and he's never even played top football in his life.
Can I just say what, Dan? I don't know who did it. Just want to say what I don't know if it was you, Dan, that blocked Lord Rodney Trotter, or if one of your mods have. The comment he made by calling me a dipstick, it's me and him bantering it because it's Rodney Trotter from Only Fools and Horses. So he is not. He is not taking a. I appreciate whoever blocked him for thinking he's taking
me. My bad. I apologise.
You're seeing me and him go back and forth non-stop, talking in Rodney Trotter from Only Fools language. That's not him having a pot on me. So he's a top man on Twitter. Oh, Lord Rodney Twitter. Lord Rodney Twitter.
If he's still on here listening, I do apologise then, because I thought it was another one having a dig at you. And
no. He's as good as gold.
On the side.
He's as good as gold. So I can do it for you now. I'll do it for you now.
Yeah, so I do apologise to him. I just couldn't be bothered with another person having a dig at someone.
He's golden. He is golden.
My bad. So I do apologise to the fella. My bad. It's just we've just had some comments on the side that have been a bit of a jar today, to say the least. And I just saw that one and I thought that was someone else.
You need to do it on your YouTube, Dan. You need to do it on your YouTube. Yeah, but I can guarantee he's golden.
Yeah, so I do apologise. I'll take you off of that, mate. I do apologise. It was just, I saw the comment.
He's coming as Bellboy. He's coming as Bellboy.
Yeah, I do apologise, mate. I just thought, after a couple of comments I've seen today, I thought that was just someone giving a comment there and I just couldn't even be bothered with it. So I will change it on the other one. Again, I apologise, mate. My bad. But going back to what we're saying, I think we are capable on that Europa. The FA Cup, not a chance. And the League Cup, Man City always just seem to like to take that one, don't they? They seem to take that one very serious, unlike us.
Yeah.
I know. But guys,
you look at it, Dan. Also, Jose Mourinho, when he was in charge of Chelsea, said, I came in and that's the first cup you can win. And it builds a winning mentality. So you look at it and you think, well, if these managers are saying it, surely, and they know more than me, they know more than you. If Jose Mourinho says the Carabao Cup or whatever it was with him, Carling, whatever the bloody sponsor is, that cup is really important to me because it's the first cup you can win. It sets that mentality. Surely you'd think that's the way to look at it, wouldn't you?
That's what I just could not understand what he'd done last season. This is where I feel he didn't just shoot himself in the foot. He shot himself in both feet basically, and they're saying it nicely. I mean, if we would have ended up finishing 9th, for instance, which could have quite easily happened the way we played towards the end, but he would have gone and won that League Cup. No, I wouldn't have been impressed with 9th, but I'd have totally forgot about it and just been happy that we got a bloody League Cup. And I think he would have done an Arteta and give himself 2 years.
Yeah.
Why he did not take that League Cup seriously, it goes above my head. I really don't get why. And I think that would have bought him extra time, basically. I mean, Eugene, what do you reckon on that? If he'd have actually got that League Cup and we'd have finished, let's say, 9th, do you reckon people would have actually been happier with him than they were last season, finishing 5th?
To tell the truth, right? If he brought in that League Cup, right? Most probably I'll buy a plane ticket and join the parade down the high street. Right? But guys, we are Tottenham Hotspur, right? The League Cup, the FA Cup for the past 16, 18 years, right? It doesn't matter anymore to our club, right? What we are always heading for is the top 4 Champions League money, right? And like what, to tell the truth, guys, the Europa League, right, is a very good gateway to the Champions League. But I've been through this past few, the past few times we've been through the Europa League, right? It's bringing back PTSDs, feelings like, when we go away to teams in the Eastern Bloc, not Eastern Bloc, the east part of Europe, and we screw up in countries like, who did we play last? The last time when was it?
We've lost Dynamo Zagreb and we're 3-0 up.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got a bad record in that Europa. Some of the ones we've got, I can't remember. What was the one I went to? Because I went to Wembley and watched us play one of them, and it was probably one of the most embarrassing ones I've seen us get knocked out on in the Europa, and I cannot remember what game it was.
Dan, well, you were probably at the same game with me. It was when we went out of the Champions League and we lost a game and Victor Wanyama scored.
No. I'm on about the one when we were playing at Wembley and we went out, I think it was the Europa Cup, to that team that no one had ever heard of.
Well, I was there when we got knocked out of the Europa League on away goals, I believe it was, and Victor Wanyama scored a goal for us. It was in one of the seasons at Wembley. So was it Wanyama? No, it might not be. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Who kept? Yeah, but
okay,
we've done it embarrassing teams, haven't we?
Yeah, we got Daniel Coyce is saying, right, we got knocked out by Ghent.
Ghent, that's the one. That's who I'm thinking of. At Wembley, when I watched that, I could not believe that we actually got knocked out on that one. Yeah, that is the one at Wembley that I went and saw. And we do have a very bad habit, especially in Europe, of going out to teams that we should not even be worried about as such.
Yeah.
And that is the bit that scares me in the Europa. But like my mate Dave said earlier, is you can afford to lose a couple of games in the Europa and still get through it and win it, same as you can in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Whereas the other cups that we've got over here, one game, you're out, basically. You can't afford to have that crap game, can you?
Well, you got to look at it as well, Dan. When you go into this year, when you look at it properly, the Europa League, we've got 8 games. We've got 8 games to play, which will take us into Christmas, New Year. Spurs should, no matter what our squad is, we'll be in one of the first pots. We should get through it. We should get through. I don't know how many teams get through to the next round from the 8, but we should get through now. When that resumes, you're looking at February, March, late February, early March, or February when that resumes. The January market would have been come and gone. You'll see where you are in the league. And surely, if we're 4 or 5 points off Champions League, I can see Spurs wanting to get Champions League via that method. Totally fair. But if we're a fair few points behind it, surely I would hope Spurs would switch and go, right, do you know what, this is where we can get Champions League. Whether it be A, for trophy and what the fans want, and B, financially for what the club want. I don't know if somewhere through the season, I'm hoping, like, if we're not there or thereabouts for Champions League qualification, that they do take the Europa League seriously.
Yeah. But Brian, I mean, even if we win the Europa League, right, we get to the Champions League. That should be a no-brainer for Ange and you know who, right? It's the thing. You make the fans happy with the cup.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, and you get your Champions League money. Yes, but
I mean, I do think we have the capability of doing it. It's just, does the manager have the capability of doing it? Again, it all keeps coming back to this same thing: is can he adapt? And especially in Europe, he plays this way that we played last season against a half good European team. We will get absolutely torn a new one and literally walk off there like John Wayne. We will get injured in a bad way.
Yep, you're right there.
Because there is going to be some good teams in that Europa League. But one of the advantages you could say it does have now is we're not going to get throwbacks from the Champions League. But there's still going to be some very good teams in it.
Hey, Manchester United is in the Europa League. Guys, don't forget. All right.
Well, the good thing is no Champions League teams are dropping down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We ain't going to get any throwbacks from the Champions League, are we?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing, isn't it, Dan?
Yes. I mean, because there's all it takes is, say, just example, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Juventus, Bayern Munich, whoever has a bad Champions League, but then they come straight down to the Europa League. Yeah. Then that puts us right up shit street again, basically.
Yeah, there's always one group of death, and in one of those groups of death, or there will be one, and that group of death team that'll come out, just by sod's law, is who will get tied up against in the knockout round if it did happen.
Yeah, but this new European season is that there are no more groups, right? They're going to play in the league, so there's no drop down. That's a positive for us. But the only thing is that we still have to focus, right? That who are we going to play? If I'm not mistaken, it's 36 teams in the Europa League, and then you have to play 4 games away, 4 games home in some kind of a draw. And that's what to tell you the truth, right? I'm waiting for this new European cup coming up and their draws. I really don't know how they're going to draw it up, right? Who's going to be seeded? Who's going to be seeded? How they're going to mix and match the games coming up. So that's going to be a new thing for all the football fans around the world, waiting for this new format being, concocted by UEFA.
Well, these are. I mean, they do change it all the time, and they do just change it to try and get more people in it to basically get more money in it, don't they? I mean, that's obviously why.
More games.
Yeah. Exactly. And with the Champions League one as well, I think a lot of people know why they are messing about with that Champions League so much at the moment, because they're so scared of that big European League taking over everything, aren't they? The Super League.
Yeah.
And that's why they're messing about with the Champions League so much, to try and keep the money up in it. That's what I reckon anyway. I mean, what do you think on that?
Say the question again. Sorry, Dan, I just responded to something on my WhatsApp. My WhatsApp is going nuts at the moment. Sorry, say it again, Dan.
Basically, why they're messing about with the European leagues is obviously to get more teams, more games, more money involved in it. And especially in the Champions League, I think they're very scared of this Super League, because I don't think this Super League is going to go away. And people would say, what have Spurs got to do with the Super League? Well, if it does come up, we will be invited to it again purely because of money.
Well, what you got to remember as well, before we go into the European games, is Man City and Chelsea get heavily dogged, which they should do by all rights. And for what they've done, what will happen? Them two will just pull away from the Super League. They'll go, we could be in League 2 or League 1 or whatever they do. How about we just piss off to the Super League and be done with it? That gets them out of that. This is the thing as well, Dan. Like you said, the more games that it brings, which you're right, is for money, but then you look at our team again, and we're weaker. And we had the injuries last season, so we're playing more games with a weaker team, with a bad injury season behind us. I will say we've got 2 weeks left of the window, and people know my thoughts on what we're doing this window and how crap we've been yet again, and how disappointing that we haven't moved quicker. But there is 2 weeks left. It's still too late, but knowing our luck, he'll pull a rabbit out of a hat. And then we'll see come the window shuts. But once the window shuts, I'll be live that second.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see where we are. Well, I'm going to have a free-for-all on the channel. I have a massive free-for-all on Tottenham on tour once the window shuts.
I mean, with what you've said there, do you know what? That's never actually crossed my mind. And that's why I just sat back a bit and thought, do you know what? You've got a solid point there, mate, in the aspect of go dock City to the lower league or go and take 20 points off them, whatever, and the same to Chelsea, just an example. They can just literally sit there and say, do you know what? Fuck you. We'll go to the Super League then. What are you going to do now? I've never looked at it like that, mate. And do you know what? Solid point. I think that's very true.
If Man City and Chelsea threaten to take all their money out and they then say to Real, Barca, Juve, you know what? That Super League you wanted. You're stripped for cash. We're being stripped for parts. We're on board. Not saying that it will happen.
No,
but you could easily see Man City and their Liverpool team threatening it, can't you?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I've never ever looked at it in that perspective as such. And do you know what? To me, that just hits the nail on the head. Like, all right, then, you little Premier League pricks, you want to knock us out? Okay, we'll go out and we will take about 5 other teams with us, and then you haven't got a league to live in. I never actually looked at it like that. I mean, because Spurs don't even deserve to be looked at for a Super League. Never in a million years. But we will get into that purely for the money side, because we are that big on the income on the money, which is
it's always about the money.
It is. Exactly. Yeah. It is what it is. But mate, that's wow, you got me thinking there, mate. That's actually that's a really bad point. But it's a good point you've made, but that's really bad. I must admit, I'm a bit stepped back here just thinking about that one, thinking, shit, they could easily do that.
It's always been festered away. Like you were just saying about how it's linking to the Super League, all these extra games going that way. Well, there's another angle that you can hit the Super League. It's coming.
I do think sooner or later it is going to come, because there's just going to be too much money orientated. Then
but that is the proof, right? The whole of Europe, right, is actually seeing the Premier League now as a Super League as itself. You get what I'm saying?
The rest of Europe looks on it as a threat, basically, because there is no money in any other league now except the Premiership. The Premiership, our mid-table teams bring up the same money as the top teams in basically every league, bar Munich, bar PSG, Real Madrid, and Barcelona, and maybe Atletico. Out of those
Barcelona doesn't have money nowadays. Then Barcelona can't even spend the money nowadays like they used to. I know,
but they still have. They're over $1 billion in debt, and they still have money coming in. They still have money coming in, and they still have more money brought into them than bloody Brighton do. But what I'm saying is, the Premier League is a threat to every other league out there now, isn't it? Basically,
that's what I'm saying. The Premier League is the Super League, right? You've got teams like last season you were seeing even Bournemouth spending more money than most of the top leagues, top teams in the other leagues. Yes. The Italian league has been badly hit, right? That's why we only could sell Emerson Royale for like £15 million AC Milan.
At least he's gone. He's gone. Yeah. So what I'll go off onto this one, seeing as we got about 5 minutes left, because I'm starting to get a tap on my door. This transfer window so far, I mean, I know what the answers are going to come through, but I'm still going to ask. Brian, transfer window so far, what has gone right? What has gone wrong? It may even be a stupid question on its own, but
so what has gone well? And I will praise the club. I will praise the board. I will say, well done, Levy, for this. Players out the door. Finally, getting them out the door and clearing the wage bill, so we can now go and offer the wages for the players that can make a huge difference. But you've done very well there. But you've made your team numerically weaker. You've positions that already needed filling and replacing the deadwood or the players, you've gone and let them go. But I get told that other clubs have to wait to find their replacements. Yeah, we ship out the replacements before we get the players in. Outgoings magnificent. Incomings need to do so much better. So much better. I could see this coming, but I didn't want to believe it was coming this year. And it's why I've been quiet this summer for multiple reasons. But I was like, let me just let this one play out. Don't fall for every single story. Don't jump on the bandwagon and think everything is legit. And I've done that. But here we are. The football season kicks off in 2 days. Manchester United kick off in a few hours. In about 51 hours, the Premier League season begins. And we have a Timo Werner. So basically, we've got a striker in that thrives on crosses, and we've got 4 wingers that can't cross a football.
Yeah. We got 2 players that can maybe do it, and that's Maddison, and we know Porro can.
We've got a midfield that has been more open than a porn star's legs in friendlies.
Yep.
And need to protect. The one good thing we have got is a great back 4, but that would be great if they're not under constant pressure and the midfield's there to support them. So, same old. But outgoings, I will say, they've done well. Apart from, like Destiny's just said, the delay, the saga. If someone had told me it was going to take over a month to get rid of Emerson.
And all that was meant to be over about £1 million.
Yeah, by the end of it.
That 3 weeks, from what I've read on and heard on the Italian side of it, that was literally Spurs and Levy dragging on £1 million. Okay, £1 million would sort our lives out. No 2 ways about it. But
I've never heard that before. I couldn't see it. But you look at it, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, off you go, bang like that.
yeah,
If we had to say one stays and one goes, which one? I'm keeping Højbjerg every single time, and that influence he has off the pitch, whatever. But he goes bang.
we didn't even sell Højbjerg. He went on loan, wasn't it?
Yes, loan with an obligation. He will be a part. But literally, that deal, and I think Højbjerg was a better player for Spurs, a bigger player name-wise, to get done like a piece of piss. Emerson Royale, a month.
Yeah, and 3 weeks of that was meant to be, again, just from what I've read, we can only go by the papers, and that was that we were stretching them over for an extra £1 million, basically, to get to that 15 million, one way or another. And again, we go back to it. We won't go deep into that one, but that's just got Levy written all over it, hands down. And I think everybody knows that. And that's why no one likes dealing with us. I mean, we were so desperate to get rid of him and that. And we even paid other players to leave. Do you know what? Fuck it. Have him. Just have him. But to stretch that out over so long, all because we've now got Spencer's back up now. I mean, like my mate Dave was saying earlier, there's only one place in that team that we are actually solid covered, and that is probably Romero's position.
Yep.
With Dragusin. And apart from that, we are not solidly covered anywhere.
When have we been ever solidly covered?
I think we've been better covered than this at times.
The way you look at it, whether you like it or not, Richarlison, if he stays, and I still stand by, I think he may leave. I'm still standing by my laurels. If he doesn't, then we do have 2 strikers that could do a job. But you doubt Richarlison's fitness. So the first time in a long time, obviously you had Kane and Richarlison. Couldn't keep hold of Richarlison's fitness even when he wasn't playing. So you'd say there's 2 there, especially when you're only playing a 1, and Lancashire. So you could say that's covered, but it's still not brilliant, is it?
No.
Still not Premier League fearing. Your Man City, Arsenal, the filth, and all the other teams are sitting there going, we've got our hands full right now. It doesn't matter because we've got wingers that can't cross the football.
No, the only ones who can genuinely cross that ball is Maddison and Porro. I can't think of another player in that team we've got who could do a genuinely regular good cross. I mean, because Johnson can't cross for shit. Son can't do it. Timo Werner, we don't even have to bring that into it. Kulusevski can, but from where we play him on the right-hand side to go onto his left foot, he don't get a chance to do it. Play him on the left-hand side, you might actually see more crosses out of him. But like I've said to everyone, he's an attacking midfield central false 9 anyway. We're very limited in those options of who can. Do you know what? Bollocks to it. Stick Spence on the right and Porro up on. Stick Spence as the right back and Porro up on the right wing. We might get a few crosses in there.
Mate, it's happy days. Happy goddamn days.
Yeah, and this was meant to be the transfer window that made or broke us.
Oh, yeah.
This was going to be the one where Levy changed everything and we were going to see that they meant business. This is what I saw.
And this was the transfer window, which was supposed to be well planned, right? And everything was going to come in early, and Ange will get his players in preseason, Guys, we're Tottenham Hotspur. Right, we're back to where we were before. So, yeah, this
So
transfer
with
window. Yeah.
It has not been a good transfer window so far, but who knows what might happen in 2 weeks? You know, we might hit the jackpot. I very much doubt that. So because I'm getting a knock on my door and that, and Brian, thanks for coming on, and Eugene
My
as
pleasure,
well.
brother.
Brian, where do we find you?
Find us on Tottenham on Tour. I will be going live in 30 minutes. We'll be talking about a few things, but there will be a nice little section about certain comments that have come out by Matt Law this afternoon from the man himself, apparently up top, and from Ange Postecoglou. So I might be the bass in my voice is starting to get a little bit louder on a certain subject. I'm just warming it up, like when you see in the opera when those women, the opera singers are going la 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 la. I'm doing my Daniel Levy version warm-ups as this window progresses, so we will be speaking about it. But yeah, Tottenham on Tour. Most importantly, follow these two above me. And thanks for having me on again, Dan.
No, always a pleasure, mate. And Eugene?
You can find me on Spurs Vision TV if I'm doing shows. Lately, I've been working, so not much time. And during the transfer window, usually ain't my, I don't believe until things really happen. So yeah, it is what it is. But hopefully, I'll try to put in a preview show for the Leicester game and maybe find a Leicester fan to come on and have a chat. Right, let's see how it goes, guys. If I'm up for it, not too tired from work. But guys, thanks for having me on. Dan, don't forget, guys, subscribe to Tottenham on Tour. Get them to their 10K as quick as possible. And of course, to Dan, right, the HotspurHood. Get him to 4K, right, guys?
Okay, well, I'm on my way to 4K. I've got 3,300 for that. So thank you to everyone for the subscribers. I don't ask very often, but just give us a quick like and subscribe. It's much appreciated. And it's been same Spurs, different day. Nothing has fucking changed. Anyway, everyone, have a good day. And Brian, go over to Brian's show and watch what he's got to do, because I think this one's going to be very interesting. So I will be there to watch. And Brian, if you wish to finish this.
Yeah, I don't have my blurred screen anymore, so I can do my proper warm-ups for it, get the fingers ready, and as always, Levy out.
See you later, everyone.
I'ma turn it up and then I'm gonna take it down.